Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends. Can I be your Valentine? Like, this is almost a Valentine's Day show.
No, you cannot, Tom, because
Aww.
my Valentine is the one and only Mr. Mephisto. How you doing, buddy?
I am living the dream every day, all the time.
Exactly. No, Meph became my Valentine when he told me he was like, yeah, we were playing a Rifts game. And, I think he said Joe was playing a shifter. And I was like, a shifter? That crappy magic class? And he's like, well, he was a demigod shifter. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Now we're back in the right space for Rifts.
Turn things right around.
You forgot a key. You forgot a key part of that. He's a double shifter.
Right.
So you can be the shifter class, and then as your demigod ability, take shifter. So he has a double pact with Odin.
Right. He's a shifter. Yes, correct.
He's a shifter. So he's got like a boatload of spells, a boatload of PPE. Like, it's great. Yep. It's great.
Yes.
Yep. Totally checks out.
That immediately put me on board. So that's why Meph is my Valentine. As soon as he said rolling up demigods, I was like, well, now we're in the area of rifts I like. So at any rate, that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. Although, Meph, sometime you and I should just do a completely Rifts dedicated rantcast at some point. That'd be a lot of fun.
I agree. We'll book it. Book it now. Yeah.
So at any rate, tonight it's time to return to Meph's other passion, which is the Bone Daddies, the OBR, the Ossiarch Bonereapers. We're going to revisit them. They've been out on the scene now for about 3 months. They've been in a heck of a lot of tournaments, and we're going to just talk about where we think they're at.
Okay.
But first, of course, we've got news. Oh my gosh, we have some news. So much news. This is a news week.
There's some stuff.
There's a little bit of stuff, yes. A few things.
So I just got to thank you in advance. Yeah. The 1 week, so my whole layoff ended at the beginning of, just on Monday. That was my first day back to work. You couldn't have me on when I was less busy for a whole month of layoff. You had to wait until my brain is fried so that I'm just completely off the ball on current events.
That's how this thing works.
Then this will be all exciting for you because some of this you might be just hearing as well.
See, that's how I do rantcasts. So let's go.
All right. So I've already got the rumor engine up, Tom. Yes, it's a little bonsai tree on the side of a rock. So I assume this is another base for one of the elf things.
It's the other non-mounted or non-techless monster, like a non-techless Sphinx base.
Yeah, I mean this bonsai tree exists on one of the pieces we've already seen. So the only question this really is this
whose
bonsai tree is this? Exactly. Whose boat is this boat? It's a question of or is it the terrain piece? We don't know if they get a terrain piece yet. It could also be part of their
they don't get a terrain piece.
I'll love it if their terrain piece is just a big rock.
Like a waystone, one of those wayfinders that binds Slanesh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
I could see that. Wouldn't it be neat if they were a Protoss pylon constructing race?
Sure. Yes.
Construct more pylons, and you're summoning these pylons over the table. No, I mean maybe I could also see a world tree.
Power overwhelming.
Exactly.
I know that this isn't Sylvaneth, but I could see some type of world tree or something. Maybe. The Tree of Ages, or I don't know.
Didn't the guy, when you became the super zealot, wasn't he just armor floating around with little red gas inside or whatever?
For what?
In StarCraft.
Yeah.
The power overwhelming reference, right? He lost his physical body, right, at that point?
Yes.
When he
like Altharion.
Yeah, and it just occurred to me that Eltharion is that guy, that he's gone super zealot or whatever. It's been a long time since I've played StarCraft, admittedly.
Right on.
Yeah. I mean, so there might be something there. Maybe the Hiles are they've embraced the Protoss-like character of the race. So I don't know.
So in the lower right hand, you actually see a little bit of lip of this. Looks like a lip to me.
Yeah.
Not like a rocky out. So I don't think we're getting a true perspective. This might be at an angle, and that's a ridge or something, right?
It could be. Yeah, that could be. It could be that we got a bad angle, and it could just be a sharp piece of rock firing up.
And I
it
Okay.
feels like the lower part of something, right?
I hope I hope it is the terrain piece, and it just casts like banishment every turn. That's its ability. Just so that like there's a faction people hate more than OBR just upon seeing the terrain.
Sure.
As
That
hard
checks
as
out.
they hated OBR for like the dong.
Well, it'll also be bigger than the
Yes,
their monolith
Yeah.
will show up and be even larger than the OBR Necromonger
And
statue.
How much of a nightmare would that be?
And it can be put on objectives.
Right. Yes. So then if you ever do the OBR versus Lumineth game, it's just this massive fight over who rolls the die to get their giant terrain piece down first.
Their literal phallus on the table, just unfurled before all to see. It'll be great.
Yes, exactly.
I want this
yeah.
now. Please, okay, design team. I know this thing's already put together, but you need to like delay the release and make this thing bigger than the Bone Tithe Nexus.
Go back into the Zcad, select all,
Scale up
to
150.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
We just called the exact same scale rate.
Because that's the correct number. That's what it needed to be.
Yeah.
You know, I agree. All right, so we all. I feel like it's just something like that. It's either one of the big monster bases or it's a little corner of their terrain piece.
No,
So,
I think
yeah.
I think we'll get a Sphinx that's not only like here's the call. It's part of the base of another Sphinxy thing that's on Teclis's base that has a head swap and can either be mounted or unmounted. And the mounted version has some type of elf lord on it.
Okay, like a generic elf lord.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the call.
All right.
What's the possibility of it being this is Tyrion's base?
Nope.
Are we getting no? We're not getting both.
I mean, I certainly hope we don't. I'm afraid we will. I originally was pretty bullish on Tyrion not being in this force, but I've since lost that after reading some of the things that we've read. I really hope he's not here. I mean, because I want the force they described him having, and nothing in this current force excites me. So, like, if it's just a bunch more elves that show up, and they're all pretty much just elves, and then Tyrion rolls out, what a waste. What a terrible waste. As opposed to that army of flying angel elves I was promised.
Yeah, I was really hoping for like we'd get the Rosaphon angel like robot elves.
Yeah.
I was really hoping for that, and when I saw these, I'm like, oh, it's just elves. And don't get me wrong, I'm really happy for people who wanted like a proper reads as elves faction.
Of course.
You know, like super happy. It looks like they went a little weird in the right places. You know, with Teclis himself. I'd rather it be too weird than too.
We
safe,
don't need
honestly.
to revisit Teclis again in the train
Fair
wreck
enough,
that I
fair
believe
enough.
that figure is. But yes,
Fair enough. Well, he's jumping off the trampoline, right? Like
the memes are just endless for his YMCA pose. Yes,
right.
I don't. Here's the thing.
I had went this last week, and I was like, cool. Like I had a good week. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah,
you just right on down. You reminded me of just that monstrosity.
Man. Yeah.
That's fine. The Eltharion dude's awesome. Remember him. Just think about sweet.
Yeah, just think of that. Yeah.
That guy's sweet.
Yeah.
I really, really hope that he's in a separate faction and that it's just a totally different army. And that each of the Elvish gods has their own army. You know. Like I understand Marathi is not technically a god. Somebody asked about that on the last show because when I mentioned it, like then each of the Elvish gods would have their own army, like all the way down the line. And yes, she's not really a god, but she's basically a god, right? She's on that level.
She really wants to be a god.
She's tougher than Alariel, I'll tell you that much for sure. So if that's how we're judging it, I'll take that fight any day of the week, and I guarantee you're gonna walk away with a dead Alariel.
I know all about that fight. Shout out to Jimbo. That was a great matchup at Econ last year.
Nice.
With Alariel.
Nice. So at any rate, that's what it is. So all right, let's move on past the little bonsai tree because undoubtedly we're gonna see more of this over time. We know we are because we're gonna keep getting little reveals every 2 weeks. They're really slow playing it, though. The last reveal they had, which we don't have as a news, we do have as a news item, but I'll just cover it now. Obviously this last Monday they came out with a new article.
The runes, yeah,
and they like went deep on the lore of the spear dudes. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. That first paragraph, and like everyone's just like they're gonna attack in the move phase, and just like the immediate like night terrors began.
Oh,
Like,
sure. Well, because it basically said, yes, the belief of the elves is that they're better at everything than everyone, right?
So
like
why wouldn't
that's their thing,
right? Yeah.
Which, I mean,
they're gonna
I
have
get.
the best
I understand.
activation wars.
right?
Yes. Like, I get it. It makes sense. Checks
Sure,
out.
sure.
No. Yeah, I don't even care. Crank it to 11. Go like break the knob off and just like and go. Yeah, like I got what I want, and I want everyone to feel as happy as I've just felt since like August of last year. Like everyone should have this feeling that I have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I do. But look, I have a deep-seated hatred for high elves, and it's a win-win
Oh,
for
really?
me. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
does.
know this about you. I actually
Yeah.
had you pegged as kind of liking high elves.
No.
Anything
despise them.
that Tom likes, Vince doesn't. I don't know
Okay.
if you figured that out yet. Dwarves, high elves, Nurgle, anything that I put my flag down on, Vince is like, nah.
But you do that like every month, so that must leave him with nothing except for Slanesh.
I mean,
I've got my stuff. He hates Slanesh. There you go.
I do.
Very-
Like, yeah, like I won't touch Slanesh.
Yeah.
So,
Man, the only way to keep the Dark Prince unsatisfied, no touching.
Yeah.
no touching, exactly. Nope.
So, but
I know better. I know how to win that war.
it
There
occurs
you
to
go.
me that with that article that came out, these guys might be a long way off. And what I mean by that is, didn't that article feel like they're really slow playing it? Because that was like a lot of words about
Nothing.
nothing. About
Yeah, I
some
mean,
spear
what it
news.
says is that we're like March to April. Like late March, early April, like confirmed. Like that's what the article reads to me. Because like I could see them doing 6 to 8 articles, right? Probably closer to 6.
Yeah, sure.
And then that puts them right around release in that March to April. Like especially if they just did one on the spear guys.
Right. If we got, that's what I'm saying.
Spear guys,
If just the spear guys got their whole own article, then there's more units that we haven't seen yet. Like, how much are we going to slow play this out? Right.
Yep.
Well, they've showed us like the spear. They didn't even do that for Bonereapers. I know it's I'm not bringing it back just because the brand here, but also the topic.
No,
like Bonereapers was about a 6-month release, right? I think July is when we got the first thing. It might have been August, and then it wasn't until actual November that they had the full launch, because they did get the Feast of Bones out first, and then by the time it was just at the tail end of October, as promised, they were coming October. So technically correct is the best kind of correct, and they were technically correct.
Yeah.
So like I figure high elf players can suffer for at least 3 more months. The way I suffered.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't care. It's certainly great for me if all the high elf players have to wait longer. I drink in your delicious suffering. So but it just it makes me wonder how far out that army is. So it's interesting.
Always is what is my read on the situation.
Sure. Because if they get that granular with these articles, which are only every 2 weeks, it felt more like a Sisters of Battle article.
Yeah.
Right. Where you had this year-long
right.
release cycle, and it was like, hey, here's the guns. It's just a whole article about the bolters. Not even all the guns, just bolters. These are their holy sacred bolters of the ecclesiarchy or whatever, ecclesiastes, however you say it, right?
It's possible that it's actually more of like just the hype train, though, because elf players have waited probably the longest to get their like full on here's no really real elves, And Dark Decane is close, but I don't think it really strikes the chord. And IDK, I barely consider them elves. They're fish folk. Like, I mean, they're not really.
They look a lot like elves, too much like elves for people who wanted fishmen. It's one of the challenges of that army.
It's like right in the middle, yeah. But like proper elves, like if you're a dwarf player, you got KO and Fire Slayers, and I feel like that like really, that was the yin and yang of like the two halves of the dwarf player.
Of
for the most part,
dwarves.
yeah, like as opposed to like just the classic racist dwarves, which I guess a lot of people love too. But like that really felt like it was you pick your flavor of dwarf and like you can commit to it. And then like there's people who's just like, we just want vanilla. It's the most sellingest flavor on the planet, and there's nothing wrong with people who love vanilla ice cream. I happen to love vanilla ice cream.
This is the elf. This is absolutely the elf release for people who like vanilla ice cream and cheese pizza.
But it's like exactly. But like that's a huge group of people, and they waited pretty much the longest, all the way into a full-on second edition. And so it might just be they're padding for time, they're building hype, they're doing all the marketing stuff you're supposed to do, but they're really just going, here's all the like breadcrumbs we should have been feeding you all along. We're so sorry that you've just been starved. So it could be a little bit of that too. Like,
I hear you. That's perfectly
like a small like, we're sorry, here's some elf shit. I mean, only elf players would care to hear about the blades of grass on the base of the elf model.
I mean,
I understand.
That checks out.
Here's what I'll say. I'm good with that. I agree with your original point more than anything. You're right. There is a huge contingent of people who are excited for this, and I'm excited for them. Not everything needs to appeal to me. That's perfectly fine. Right. I am okay with people like what you like. I'm not going to yuck your yum. Like if that's what people enjoy, thumbs up. It's not what I enjoy. I like weird stuff, and so bring on the weird.
Do.
There you go.
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm okay with that. All right. What's our next thing in news?
Where'd my tab go?
FAQ. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the FAQ. Actually, yes, that is the next one.
Hey,
the
I'm in your head,
FAQ.
Tom. I'm in your head.
Yep. Yep. Ta-da!
So the FAQ got FAQ'd.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. I'm so happy.
It's just delightful. Like I would ask nothing else for both the Zinch and KO FAQs.
We wouldn't expect any less from two of the most contentious, complicated books. Here's what I love about this. They looked at the release schedule and said, these are two of the most controversial, complicated books. You know, let's do this. Let's write them both at the same time.
And release them in a box together.
And put them out together. I feel like that was just probably not the best choice overall.
That was ambitious.
It should have been like it should have been like Ogres with Zinch, like the simplest book with the most complicated book or something like that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so tangible changes that happened.
Yeah, so KO can one drop again.
Sure. As we basically always knew they could, but it needed to be clarified anyways. Great.
Right.
Yep.
Yay. Yep. Garrison. Like, way to fix it. All right.
Yep.
Cool.
And then for the Zinch dice, like they reworded it so that it didn't go wonky and didn't create a bunch of weird corner cases. And
one's on Battle Shock of Destiny Dice 1 on the horrors will now restore to them.
Right.
So
which what I called last week.
Sure, of course. I mean, that's a perfectly look. You could read it both ways. It was fine. This is the way it broke. It's easy to sit on this side of it and go, ha 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 ha. You know, I was right, but it just could have. They could have just as easily ruled the other direction, and you would have also been like, "Yep."
Gloating is literally what sustains me, though. So I'm gonna gloat.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, like it's kind of like what I do in this show.
I understand. It is your role here.
But
no,
I
go ahead.
I think that like people wanted to read it the other way so thoroughly they were forgetting English.
Sure.
Because it said the exception in it. It was just like they put the parenthetical. Well, they used the parenthetical, and they simply shouldn't in rules writing. Right. You don't kind of put the parenthetical in the middle of a sentence. You put something on the end to you put a clarifying statement at the end, rather. So, like, I think that was a misstep. But like, that's where all the confusion comes from. I think if they just shifted that parenthetical to the end, people would have read it correctly because people were just wanting to read it the other way. We see this all the time in like RPGs. We're like, it just doesn't work that way. Right. You know, like read it back, break the sentence down. What is it actually saying? And like it said the exception kind of there. And I'm happy they clarified it though, because like you said, you could argue it either way. And especially like Games Workshop rules sometimes have this thing where if you overthink them, you can trick yourself out of what you know to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like pile in. Pile in is one of those exceptions. One of those times where, like, when can a unit pile in? When it charges or when it's within 3 inches. And then you start reading other abilities, and you're like, and you start to get a little bit confused. with things that have 6-inch pile-ins, double
Yeah,
activations, where things like that happen. I think that was a little bit of what was going on there, is people were reading themselves in a loop. Just
Yep.
we didn't get the chance to slow down, and we're really angry at Tzeentch right now as a community.
Yeah.
So we wanted them to not have the thing.
No, it's fine.
The community wanted to inflict pain.
Yeah. So they got a little slight buff from the FAQ. Slight.
Because they needed that.
Horrors were really on the edge of being unplayable.
Yeah, they're unplayable almost.
Oh no, sorry, they're on the edge of being the best unit in the game. I apologize. That was the other way around. But
on the edge,
Yeah.
on the edge, like they just.
I don't know, those Mortec guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's fine. Whatever. Like, we're all gonna live with it now for the next 6 months, and then come GHB 2020, we can all just not have this happen anymore, and hopefully things will be corrected, because I think most of the problems are points, and ta-da, then things will be fixed. We've just all got to basically suffer through.
We got to let Tzeentch win Archaon and Sheffield Slaughter.
I don't think it's going to win Archaon. I think the field's wide enough.
I mean, in giant, in
giant
really
pools, it's like such anyone's game,
exactly.
like a pool that size.
I would agree. It was that CanCon event that had the largest, the largest event in the world.
Touche, Tom. Touche.
And certainly that could have broken easily to where a Cities of Sigmar player would have taken it, right? It's not like that was a smash game in Game 6. Like the Cities player was in that the whole time, right?
Sure.
And we would have been like, oh, well, they got smashed by Cities or whatever, and Cities were on top. And so, like, the counterfactual is, like, let's say that was a 60-40 game in Tzeentch's favors. That means 4 out of the 10 times it gets played, Cities wins that game.
Right. Yep.
So, like, it's going to be out of bounds and in some way, and we're just going to have to be like, okay, that's what it is, and it'll get corrected and fine. But at a big event like that, things can just break weird. I know there are going to be several good players there playing Tzeentch, but that doesn't mean things can't get weird.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah,
I mean,
Dyson
let's point out. I mean, let's point out that last Archaon, Seraphon walked away in the midst of the height of Daughters. Daughters was on tables 1, 2, and 4 maybe, and it didn't podium at all at Archaon because it went Seraphon, Skavens. Something else.
Yeah, sure.
Trunzo was the Skaven.
Yeah, Trunzo was too. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, Tom,
Trunzo
I really feel like Daughters not podiuming was your fault, since you were the one in pole position with Daughters and lost to the guy who got second. So it's pretty much your fault they didn't get a podium.
It was me and Chai, because Chai was on table 1 with Daughters, and I was on table 2.
Yeah, Chai was also there. So you and Chai let us down. Yeah, Chai is like he's a better Daughters player than you, admittedly.
Totally.
I don't think that's ruffling your feathers to say that.
Although he is like chasing my armies. Like, we both had mixed order armies the prior year of like Arcanog heavy mixed order. Last year was both Daughters. We'll see what he turns up with this year.
There are innovators, and then there are pilots. Tom, you, sir, are an innovator. That doesn't mean you're not a skilled pilot, but like, everyone's got their strengths, man.
Sure. There you go.
It's true.
All right, what else we got?
I have to stay ahead of the meta.
Sure.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Tzeentch KO. Giant Book has shipped. Dun, dun, dun.
That's right. 197 boxes of sweet, sweet giant books. The shipping manifest leaked. GW, just put out the article. Just do it. What are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
What's with
I mean, put out that giant article.
Right. Like, we all know at this point, we all enjoyed your little Zote joke. That was fun. Yay. But now we've seen 2 shipping labels. The book is confirmed. Just put out the article. We have to wait for it. Do you know who's stopping me from reading my sweet article on Giants and knowing what the heck that army's going to be all about?
Pete Foley.
No, it's not Pete Foley. It's the Lizardmen. They're doing this.
Sure.
Yeah, it's their fault.
I mean, that's
they're gonna be a dual box, right? Like that's the.
I doubt it, because what would it be? 2 Giants, 3 Giants? I mean, I think it'll just be 2 independent releases, but who knows?
Okay.
I mean, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
My particular feeling is just that's why I think they're separate. If they were coming out together, we'd basically know about both of them right now. because they'd be building up hype to both of them, right?
Yeah, like they did with the Feast of Bones, right?
Right.
Like because we got Maw Tribes and OBR in that same sort of release schedule.
Yep.
You know, Maw Tribes got their one video and then crickets the whole time while I just like enjoyed the spotlight and built an entire podcast out of nothing over how awesome Ossiarch Bonereapers were.
And you were right. So there you go. Sometimes you gotta bet big to win big, my friend.
Right.
So the point is that those stupid lizards are keeping me from learning about my giants because they don't want to steal the thunder of the Seraphon. Like the Seraphon need their time in the sun.
Lizards?
The thunder
the
lizards,
thunder
yes.
of the thunderquake of Seraphon, really.
Yeah, they're going to be, you know, these people. Look, if we must feel for anybody, if our heart must go out to anyone, it must truly be with the Seraphon players. No, because Elvish players have had things to do, right?
See, I just feel bad for downtrodden Tzeentch right now. They had to have 2 FAQs for like one ability.
It's really rough. Like Seraphon have waited so long in this cycle for their actual book. They've been an army that exists running on the fumes of rules for just ever, right?
Right.
And like I want them to get their time in the sun. So let's hurry up with that. Can we get this article out? When is this Seraphon book coming out? Sooner rather than later. Hopefully like tomorrow. I want to see the pre-order thing next Sunday be Lizardmen are going on pre-order next weekend. That's what I want to see. I want to see Sunday, whatever the next Sunday is. 16th. Sunday the 16th, saying that Saturday the 22nd, or whatever it is. I don't know. However that works. You'll be able to pre-order Seraphon. That's what I want. Boom. Make it happen. Get these lizards out. Everybody get their book. Get them sweet pyramids out. Let's all start celebrating. Let's all have a lizard party. We can all have our Slan Seraphon lizard man party.
Our spawning.
We can all have our great spawning. And then we can all move on and forget about them and get to the giants, which is the real story.
I'm actually like, I have like a hidden agenda for wanting Seraphon to be back, and I want them to be awesome. But like, it doesn't look like they're getting the new sculpts. So like, I also get to breathe a sigh of relief because my son just got his first model.
Okay,
like his first Age of Sigmar model this last week. If the dinosaur army came out, like I'd have to not buy the house we're trying to close on, and like just buy him an army set. So I'm happy, but I'm sad. I'm conflicted.
All right, so that's what I want to see. I want to see that. Like I want to see the Lizardmen get all their time. I want to see celebrations. I want to see community articles galore. I want to see people excited.
A parade, perhaps.
Absolutely. Throw a Lizardman parade down Lizardman Street with Lizardman floats and Lizardman balloons, giving out Lizardman popsicles and throwing Lizardman hard candy to little Lizardman babies in the crowd. And then once that parade's over, we can sweep up and make way for the giants.
Yep.
I'm for it. Signed.
All right. Excellent. Plus, as a Skaven player, I am excited to see some of my old enemies get their book back. They ate our god once, and I'm not forgiving them for that ever.
I mean, checks out.
Yeah. No, I like when you like it feels better, like raising a rising tide lifts all boats type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when your enemies, like when KO was like coming back out, I'm like, oh, Clown Car again? I already know this menace. Let's go. Like, Nagash versus Clown Car.
Absolutely.
Our battle will be legendary. Like, when my old rivals are good, then I feel more invested in the game. It's part of that, like, that little, like, narrative that you just, like, a personal narrative. It doesn't have to be my character's backstory. No, but, like, the things that make you like the armies you like, giving you that little extra thing, good villains make you like things better. Every great, like, the best stories in the world have great villains. So when your villain in the context of a war game is another army, you just have the most fun games, I think.
No, totally agree. It's so much fun to hate on armies in this game, right? Like we all love to have the armies that we hate. I say that with little finger air quotes because I mean that, right? Like I don't one should never be rude or mean to somebody for liking a thing. That's not what I mean. But there's fun hatred, right? Like we can all be like me making fun of Nagash, like you making fun of Sigmar, like that's the fun of this thing when we all get to like put on our personality hat of somebody who lives in that world and lives that experience and hates that thing. That's super fun. And I personally hate high elves, for example, and will hate them in this incarnation as well. So there we go.
See, like my go-to army to hate for the longest time has been Tzeentch. And like being
It's a good one to hate.
Being the contrarian I am, the internet hates Tzeentch right now, so I have to be a smarmy bastard and like meme on those people and troll those people. So like Tzeentch needs to be brought down a tap so that I can go back to hating them and feeling good about myself, and not hating them and feeling like I'm one of the crowd. That's no fun.
Oh, we've got a request for a hot take. All right, we ready, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So John Shaves has said there is a rumor that the Adepticon reveal will be a completely new faction. He would like our best scathing hot take on that. Well, first of all, I'd be shocked if it was. No, let me roll that back. I would be surprised if it was. I would not be shocked. That's too strong. Because assume we all know the elves are coming, and so let's say most of the elvish stuff is revealed by that point, and then they go, here's the final piece of the elvish puzzle revealed in all its glory, and also, but wait, it gets worse, and then like here comes the big thing. So what's the giant reveal? New faction for Adepticon.
And it can't be giants?
It can't be giants. No, we already know that's happening. It's not giants. It's not elves.
Yeah, but they've teased it. They haven't like officially revealed.
Sure.
Okay, but for the thought experiment. Okay.
For the thought experiment.
All right. The brand new Skaven thing, whatever it is.
Ooh, okay. So a new Skaven clan. I like that.
Like the whatever happened to Ash and Mulder like type thing. Like we're gonna get that. And it's actually on Warhammer Weekly. You were talking about like where's the new Skaven tech?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I want to see the AOSified Skaven tech. They're already cranked to 11. I think, dare I say, they could go to 13?
I think so. They could go. Obviously, they have a setting that goes to 13. Yes.
right. And I don't think we've seen the setting go, like cranked up to 13. You know,
well,
we've only got the 11. So like I want to see I think Skaven could be sweet.
All right, dig it, Tom.
Yeah, I could go with Skaven.
What Caribbean faction? What Caribbean themed faction are you going to guess?
No, I think that if they're gonna push it, I think that we had to have the re-release of the KO in order to actually like push that narrative. And so here's my call: is that I'm gonna go with either. I agree with you on Skaven. And they may harken back to the Island of Blood box. Because you have the high elves that have now arrived.
Yeah, sure.
And so there could be this like fun little play on, a new challenger has arisen. Otherwise, because of the KO release, I could see either the Skaven or the infamous Grotbag Scuttlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like as much as I think that Skaven would be a neat release, I think it's going to be something destruction.
Okay. All right. I've got my call.
Yeah.
Kurnothi.
Okay. Ooh. Okay.
I think it's too close to elves. Too close too soon.
There are a bunch of weird satyrs and centaurs and crap. It's fine.
Are we approaching one full calendar year from the warband?
Roughly, yes, yeah.
Roughly, that's the trend, isn't it? So you get one full calendar year, and then they get the army.
Maybe.
Just saying. That's my call.
All right.
There you go. So there's our hot takes. I'd love it. Here's what I say. I'll hope we get something like what would blow me away is if we got something just totally new, like people, elementals, crystal people, whatever weird thing, like a lycanthrope based army, a completely different take on like vampiric hordes.
I could see a crystal based army based in Heish, because I think whatever it is, it's going to be based in Heish. If we did Skaven, I could see them going the route of Ulgu, like light and darkness, like light and shadow is a duality there. I could see them doing that, but I could also see like a rock people in Heish, right? Like a crystal based, light based, like elemental something.
Any elementals or god beast armies would just be sweet.
100%.
Bring on the huge awesome crap.
Yep.
They would be like sons of a god beast.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Yes, please.
For my health and well-being, I have to say not vampires this year, please. Like, let me finish the Bone Daddies before you get me the
Oh, like there's
last
so much space they
downhill.
could play around with vampires. If they made the
Just-
move
just
like
wait.
Magic did,
Just wait.
from
Yeah.
turning vampires from an iconic into whatever Magic has terms for it, right? Like iconics are like dragons are in red, where they're all like 5/5 and they have to be expensive, and then goblins are their like a different word. They have a different word for those two types of creatures, right? Like the base creature is a thing, and then the big creature that represents that color is a thing. So like dragons and goblins in red, and they made a move, back in like Innistrad or whatever, where vampires went from the iconic and being large and powerful to the weedier dudes. He had like 1/1 and 2/2 vampires and stuff like that. And I just think you could do that same thing. Like that Castlevania series shows you vampires all up and down the power scale, right? Like there was vampires that just got blown through, right? That were just cut down like wheat by both the good guys and the bad guys. And then there's also, Dracula, who was
and Alucard.
just nigh unkillable, monsters, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I actually think that they could set up the quote unquote order undead, like with vampires.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Because
100%.
you have that backstory with like Aberash and like the Bretonians, and like they basically just like peace out through a portal, and Aberash supposedly cures his soul blight by drinking dragon's blood or some shit.
Yeah.
Like you could, maybe he didn't cure it. He's like a freaking Dompier now, and he comes back like this like half vampire redeemed knight sort with like his sweet whatever super Bretonian like pseudo vampire army in its order now. Like then you get your opposition to Nagash that everybody wants so desperately, and then you have this like really cool, really get to like kind of play around with like the idea of like your idea of like a gold faction, right? Like you play around with that a little bit. I think that like I want vampires. Don't misquote me, internet. I truly want them, but like I have like two loves. It's like skeletons and vampires. Like I want to play Castlevania the Army.
Yeah, I get it.
Games Workshop ruined that for me a long time ago when they split up my army. But like I'm much richer now, so I can afford more than one army than when I was like a teenager mowing lawns. So like, don't do this to me yet.
Right.
Games Workshop.
So here's my question. One, do vampires in Age of Sigmar explode in sunlight?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
No.
Yes.
No way.
Because Manfred seemed like he walks around in the day-ish. Like, if he just kind of makes it cloudy, it seems like he's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, direct sunlight. But he always, like, all the powerful vampires could just, like, make it cloudy, and they could still be out in the daytime. As long as there was, like, partial cloud cover.
That's all that the War Altar Sigmar is just shooting light beams.
Light is, wholly blessed light is different than sunlight, to a degree. Anyways, question 2, and this goes to Planescape. One of the reasons vampires are great in Planescape is because there is no sun. It's just, there's fake light. Like, you could be a vampire in Sigil and be out any time of the day, right? Is the light of Hysh, or whatever, because that's what light comes from, right? Like, when the plane of Hysh is in Ascendance, it's daytime.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that sunlight? Does that kill a vampire? I'm going to say probably not. Well, right? Because that's not the sun.
Right. And that's the thing is like a lot of the like vampire tropes are like superstitious based, and like as we moved away from superstition, we've had to like invent. First off, get your realism out my games, so I'll concede my point before I make it. But like as we moved on as like a nerd culture, we've expected better explanations for stuff, and like I don't think garlic and sunlight and no reflection vampires are really like that awesome anymore, you know.
Yeah,
so
they probably like are Twilight Sparkle vampires.
There you go. Good.
No,
this is Age of Sigmar.
Oh,
No.
God, make my lifetime. That would be incredible. I would drink so many salty tears.
No, this is the worst idea. No. Tom, if this happens, I'm blaming you.
All right. At any rate, so
They're
let's.
really going for a new demographic.
You got to get
new teenage girls, like a new demographic. Oh, no.
Well, they need an army that's not Sylvaneth.
Azir is space. Azir is like space. It's just kind of it's the heavens.
Yes.
But Heish is day and Ulgu is night.
Okay.
In there, yeah. Okay. Anyway, next news item.
Oh,
We'll get through
we're
this
still
news
doing
in like
news?
the whole length of the show.
We have like a bunch of they are finally taking the axe that we've been holding over them for a year now of like the one-off models in the dual boxes.
That's right.
We
Hallelujah.
finally got our Bombardier and Archery Gent and Sylvaneth guy.
Mhm.
I love that Sylvaneth guy.
Yeah.
And the Loon Boss on Squig and the Tyrant and Volkmarian.
Oh, poor Vokmordian.
Yeah, the worthless guy.
Oh, so bad.
So here's the question. Like I was about to say, this tells me that it heralds the end of the box generation, right? I saw that, and then it dawned on me that is absolutely not what this heralds,
No.
because we just got the Endrin Master and the
and the Magistron disc.
and the Magistron disc. Which what that tells me is that we are probably going to this is the new release cycle where you'll have these exclusives that'll be, because that is all the dual boxes for 2019. And now we're into January of 2020, so all of them drop as a release.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if, now, for anybody that wants an Ender Master, they need to wait till next January to buy them on individual.
Or Bastion, or that's
sure.
probably an acceptable tolerance zone, right? Maybe.
Sure. On one hand, it doesn't matter because you can just buy Brock, and there's no other use
Right,
for Brock
and it's-
except making an Endrin Master in dirigible suit. So that's an irrelevant kit badge.
I mean, that checks out.
That character technically already exists because Brock is pointless. So we're good.
That checks out.
Yeah.
And then you can take the head off of him, put like an Ender Master head, and then use that Brock head on a different model. That's what I did.
Yeah, sure.
And it was totally let me just say, that head wasted on Brock. Looks great on my Admiral though.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, 100%. And so there's one. Maybe, I mean, what I hope this heralds is that yes, we will now regularly release these, and you can bet on that. Great. I was so thrilled when that article went up on Sunday and they were like, we're sorry, here they all are, enjoy. Because I was super excited because I wanted to get one of those tyrants just to paint. I wanted one of those new ogre tyrants for my ogre army and to paint him. It's such a cool sculpt. But I wasn't going to go out and buy the whole box. And I had an ogre army already. I didn't need more. Right?
Right.
I talked to Haywo. I hear he has spares.
Sure. So I stuff like that excites me. Now I had already picked up enough bombardiers to cover me. I have 3 bombardiers already, so I was like, okay, good on that. But just cool stuff like that. And I'm okay with them not being available at the time of the box. Totally makes business sense. I get it. You want them to be kind of an exclusive. If you want 3 months or 6 months after the box comes out, I'm fine. But it shouldn't go longer than that.
Right.
Yeah. That's I, by the way, my personal taste would be to lean toward 3 months for those kind of exclusive. That feels nicer.
I think you've got the initial to sell through the initial inventory and get into a second printing is sort of the business that you're trying to accomplish.
I mean, do they ever go to
with
second printings on dual boxes?
Well, you want to sell through that's the thing is the goal is to sell through the initial printing of the box, and then the second printing be
those
the models by themselves,
the singular models.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So the notion.
By the way, I think it was Aether War was the first box that didn't sell out.
Interesting. So we've been pushing them to produce more because we keep buying them out, and this one everybody was like, yeah, it's all right.
But those players already had basically the entire armies sitting on their shelf. Zinch had to buy flamers to replace their Skyfires. Oh no! Everyone.
Well, 2 things. One, half of that box isn't the new hotness currently.
Right.
On either
Zinch discs. Well, I would argue that the Endrin Masters that are in there, the Endrin Riggers that are in there, are still perfectly viable and good.
Yeah.
They're a good unit. And 2, if you liked those Zinch Skyfires or Enlightened, they've gone through so many phases of being, broke / good / bent / whatever. Everybody who wanted those already had them, right?
Yeah.
Those were just so already commonplace. And then
with with the riggers though.
Well, and
I mean,
the
it's-
KO players probably aren't as like absolutely huge. Oh, Robert said you can still order Wrath and Rapture. Interesting that one stuck around. Huh.
That's
Yeah.
the cross 40K one too, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe that's why it's kind of different because it also has that 40K element to it. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I bought one, so there you go. That's interesting. And then yes, as Steve Keen said, or maybe they just produced enough Aether Wars. Like they have been stepping up production, so maybe they just actually had it now. Yes, it didn't sell out, but we don't know how that. We don't. There could be 5 left. You know, that could be the number.
No,
so.
and I actually checked, and it's not on the site anymore. So it looks like they finally did sell out their inventory of it.
Well, there you
but
go.
But I do know that like for a while that like there were lots of those left.
Oh, good. Maybe that just tells you that they actually produced enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Artificial demand is the worst kind of demand. Don't do that shit.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
We want to buy your stuff, GW. You don't need to play tricks on us.
No, yeah, I mean, which I don't think was ever really their intention. A lot of people push that narrative, and I know that just never rocked to me.
I'm just memeing.
I understand because like they wanted to make enough stuff to sell. Them producing 20 extra box sets or 100 extra box sets, the cost of that offset versus losing 100 sales, it's not even close. Right? That's like the cost to profit ratio there is just, it's not even the same ballpark, right? But in addition to those guys, that is to say those things, of course,
your dumb guys are up.
You shut your dirty face. That's right. The Mind Stealer Spheranx finally going on pre-order along with Fomeroid Crusher, which, okay, whatever. Cool. Like, I'm happy for them.
I
think
think
we're excited about that thing, but
I think I'm just not excited because of how excited you are of it.
That
like it's
cat
just not
is the
There's
best
that relationship
model
again. There's that relationship again.
Yeah.
That cat is the best model they've made in the past 10 years, except for the Keeper of Secrets.
You were out of your damn mind.
Putting down the
You were
flag.
out of your damn
Second
mind.
best model.
No. Catacross has redefined what it even means to be a model in the game of Age of Sigmar. He is a walking diorama.
Yeah.
Yes. He doesn't even make sense in the way his modeling technology is from the future when it's just all dioramas fighting dioramas.
Sure. I am somewhat sad, Meph, that we're not going to get to talk about Wrath of the Everchosen this week because I'll love to get your I'll watch
Hot
your
takes.
show because I'm sure you
Hot
love
takes
your
galore.
show
Yeah.
on it. Yes, on Catacross's whatever I don't
jobber status in there for no reason. Like what the fuck? Pardon my language. Just come on.
There's ours.
Archaon just so tired of winning. This character just man, I just can't stop winning. I'm walking along with holding all these W's and I just dropped one. Oh man, it's not worth my time to bend over and pick up that W because I'm holding on to so many. My flight to the top has just been laden with obstacles as an antagonist. I freaking hate Archaon. What a piece of Mary Sue garbage. This total Skaven I can forgive because they're wacky and they lose sometimes too and they're duplicitous.
I mean, I would argue they lose
Archaon is just
all the time.
Fine. And Archaon is just oh man, I'm just so great at everything. I'm just gonna why did Archaon stop fighting? He just got so tired of winning. He just he's not even he doesn't even have the good sense to be a Gorka Morka who's just just has to murder all the time and it's a downside. No, Archaon's just I'm gonna cool it for a little bit. He's not even fully committed to his own ideals of being I'm so mad. And it has nothing to do with the Catacross. It could be anybody. And I'm just yeah.
No, he I don't want to give any spoilers. We'll do that on the show next week.
Fine.
But it was yes, it was a fun read. I read the whole narrative of the book.
Anybody else?
It made me laugh.
Let me just say that from a narrative standpoint, I think GW really missed the boat. And I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about with Archaon in general. I want to put a pin on this.
Then he should have been a reformed hero during the end times and turned against the Chaos Gods.
Well, no. I think he should have led the charge all the way to the end, right? And then in that fight with Sigmar, get smacked with the hammer or whatever, and has like the chaos knocked out of him, right? And he repents as they fall into the abyss.
Yeah, and he's like,
okay.
We
And
said
then,
way
hold
back
on.
at the beginning in our prediction thing that he should have been the one founding the good guys rebellion instead of Sigmar.
He should, and well, no, I think that Sigmar should still be the god, but I think the difference is that this is the man that struggled with a god, and then walked away respecting and following him.
Yeah, sure.
And he should have became the Celestant Prime.
Yep. Unfortunately, he can't because models exist.
Right.
The narrative in these games, will always be somewhat handcuffed because they're tied to physical models.
Yeah.
Like if we were just writing a novel, that's absolutely the story we would have told, right? You would have had that villain turn and go on this long redemption arc where he struggles with being an anti-hero and he struggles with the darkness inside of him.
How about any struggle at all for the like good stories require tension. They require conflict.
No,
Archaon has
bullet train.
conflict. Like he has nothing. It's the laziest, garbagest villain they have in this game.
Yeah, he is a bullet train that cannot be stopped. Yes, when he shows up, he clears.
Remember when I destroyed the last world, and then I just got like bored, and so then I showed up and I just started kicking everyone's ass on this new world until I got bored.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like he's just like
And by the way, no, Matt, I think so. Matt Austin pointed out that like that falls apart when you know that Archaon was a priest in the Empire and learned some dark truth and then went to chaos. No, I think that's exactly what makes that story correct because it shows the cyclical nature of everything, right? Like, yes, he was a priest, then he learned some dark secret and blah, 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 blah. Perfect. And now he realizes that the secret doesn't matter or the truth of it didn't matter, that the world is more complicated, that it's not that. Like, his initial instinct when he was a priest was as a child, that everything was black and white, and he thought he was on the side of that good. And then he learns this truth about evil, and he's still acting as a child, just rebelling. And so his journey and evolution into quote-unquote adulthood is the spin back around the circle, where he enters the gray that adults live in, where things aren't clean, and we have to make messy decisions.
And he knows that Sigmar isn't a god, and that's okay to him.
Right, and that's how these things get framed. That's how these stories get told through supernatural entities, right? We're all just telling the story of normal human life through these supernatural entities.
Well, the thing is, like in Age of Sigmar, what's really, I think, great about it is that most of the characters, almost all the iconic characters, are like in that Greek mythology sort of vein, where they're like some aspect of humanity cranked all the way up,
right? And
they even carry all those flaws up. Why is Archaon the only one who's kind of like scrubbed of them?
Yeah, sure. Because he's the sort of superhuman of the world, right?
And the other, like, I mean, you could do like an Anton Chigurh style thing with Archaon, but then you have to remove POV from him and make him like a tornado that just goes through your world, and then that's how you get conflict and tension back to Archaon stories. Is if you remove a POV and he becomes a Jason figure.
Yeah, all I'm saying is if we can redeem Vader, we can redeem this guy.
Perhaps.
Well, not only Vader. Well, yeah, sorry.
I'm just saying, like, that was the point of that original trilogy, and like whatever. This isn't Star Wars talk, but my point is if we can all feel like Vader was redeemed in some way, we can redeem this guy too. There you go. Yeah. Okay, cool. And I'm not even talking about that expanded universe Infinity story where Vader ends up joining the light side, sort of lives at the end, and puts on a suit of white armor. Like he has his same. He still keeps the Vader armor, but it's white.
Yes.
It's like it's the dumbest.
Such a pretty bride.
That's like the dumbest best ending to a comic ever. At any rate, So, all right. At any rate, yeah. So I'm so excited about my llama kitty. That guy is getting ordered in. Can't wait to get that thing on the table. Are you joking? I am all in on that thing. You shut your face.
He's a great ally for Beasts of Chaos.
He is a great ally for Beasts of Chaos. We talked about that, yeah.
So I'm really happy for him.
That guy he is a beast who does well with beasts. Yes, indeed.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think he's good. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
You just don't like it.
Saying, it's just...
You cannot like it. I'm going to run 10 Oblivion Crushers and, like, smack all terrain 10 times. Just mortal wound everybody around it. It's gonna be me facing off against somebody with a bunch of like Lord Toots, and we'll all and nobody goes near terrain. All right, So also next news item, more Warcry card packs. Boy, we're rolling those out hard, and
Yay.
fast and heavy, aren't we? SCE Sacrosanct, Seraphon, Sylvaneth, Maggotkin, Heed Knights, the other Nurgle, like the demons, the Blades of Corn and Corn Demons. And they actually had an article today showing all the units that were available. And what was funny to me about the Blades of Corn is the Korgorath is one of the things you can pick.
Of course it is.
That's a big model to be in there. Like the Blades of Corn have Skull Reapers, Wrathmongers, and the Korgorath, and Blood Warriors.
Like, where are you buying that Korgorath?
That is the funny part to me. Yes, exactly. Talk about single models that still have never been released. Yep.
I mean, obviously, the getting started box is the answer. That's where it exists now, is that getting started box, but with the Blood's Greater. Yep.
That's cool.
We just got happy about them like unlocking models from their cages, Tom, and you had to like just bring us down. Is this because he made fun of elves at the beginning of the show?
Yes. I wanted to remind us that we're not out of the woods yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, folks.
No, I'm gonna order a bunch of those cards. I got the whole when they did the last drop. I learned my lesson. Like the first drop, I ordered most of them, but I didn't get the whole thing. This last time around, I was like, nope, bring them all. Let's go, the whole lot.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, like
let's
do this. I'm gonna have to get one of those like magic binders for all the cards. Like that's what I need at this point. But all my magic binders are full of magic cards. So there you go. And yes, somebody said KO have like 24 cards. Yeah.
Of course they do. Yeah, because like in each like Endrin Rigger, you would have 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, 6 cards for each Endrin Rigger, right?
Wouldn't it be for each gun? Guy with base gun, guy with special gun 1, guy with special gun 2, and then the champion.
Well, but hold on, the champion, and then base guy, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then the Aethermatic gun.
Yep. And
then Skyhook, Grapple Hook.
Oh yeah, there you go. I forgot they have 3 special guns.
Skyhook, Grapple Hook, Drill Cannon.
Okay. It could be that they combine the 2 that are like on the same line on the War Scroll.
Maybe, or just those 2. That one kit would generate 12 cards because you'd have both the Sky Warden version of all of those things and the Endrin Rigger version of all those things.
Sure. So cool. It's exciting. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick up the KO one and that kind of stuff. There's a couple others. Obviously, I'll pick up the Slanesh one. So yeah. Cool stuff. I'm excited for more Warcry cards. Bring them on. They don't stick around forever, so I'm not passing on that.
Nope.
There you go. And yes, the new article is on the site, so you can actually see the models that are available in each one. Like the Lizardmen, the Seraphon had their Saurus Knights in there, which was cool. That's a neat addition.
I mean,
but in addition,
that's disappointing.
They had Ripperdactyls, and
those models aren't going anywhere.
Sure, none of them are. They had the Ripperdactyls, the Pterodons, and the Ripperdipperdoos and the Pterodactyls in there too.
Yep.
Which was crazy. I can't imagine. Those guys are going to be scary as all get out in Warcry, man. Fast flying monster like that does high damage. That thing's going to be a nightmare in Warcry.
Mm-hmm.
Ripperdipperdoos are going to be dipping up some tables. That'll be like a 280 point card.
And the tables are smaller, so you can't run from them as much.
Oh, no.
Right, not at all.
Will the Bloat Toad exist? Will the Bloat Toad be joining us? Who knows?
It'll be the ability. That'll be the dice ability.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Good call. Yep, you're right. Okay. So, but exciting there. Glad to see that. I'm glad to see they basically are just like, yep, the floodgates are open. Here comes everybody. Warhammer Fest tickets went on sale. Got my tickets for Warhammer Fest. They finally put up the dates and tickets went on sale. So I hope to see some people over there in the UK out for Warhammer Fest in May. It's at the very beginning of May. In that first week there, like May 2nd and 3rd or something.
Yep.
I'll be over there for it. And related to that, my new classes are up. You can find the link in the description. So I'm teaching in the UK again this year at Dark Sphere in London. the week after Warhammer Fest. So it's going to be a Thursday, Friday class because Friday is a holiday in the UK. That Friday after Warhammer Fest is the holiday. So I'll be teaching Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. Two different 2-day classes. Darksphere was awesome last time. I'm excited to teach there again. It was a great place for a class. Yep. And so those are all up. You can look in the description. If you're in the UK, I'd love to have you come to a class. We're going to do a big monster class, and we're going to do a character class, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So there you go. Also, my June class in Michigan went up. So I'm also teaching up in Michigan here in the States in June. So you can find all of those down in the link in the description. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Coming to my neck of the woods. The Midwest.
Well, I mean, I'm in your neck of the woods. I'm in the Midwest.
Yeah,
So
he literally lives in the Midwest.
Yeah, I don't. The jury's still out on that.
Somehow I don't live in the Midwest.
Like, I guess you live in the South.
South?
Kentucky's the South, yeah.
That's just the weirdest thing in the world. Is Missouri the Midwest?
Yes, technically. That's where we draw the line. That's where we draw the line.
Sure.
Yeah, I know. They must be the most middle of the Midwest, I think is what it is. Is like, and Ohio, we take them because nobody else wants them. Like
sure,
the East doesn't want them.
And I think that's finally all of our news. My goodness gracious. This was a
news. You're welcome.
And we got the official word from Sean Clark, who says we don't claim Ohio.
Yeah. I mean, he's a doctor, so I think you gotta go with him.
True.
I'm just saying. Look, here's what's funny to me. Did everybody see that little thing that got shared around where it was like somebody who lives in another country trying to label the United States?
Trying to, it was like, is this Ohio?
And there was like 17 Ohio's on the map. Maybe this is Ohio. All I'm saying is that's how relevant Ohio is. I didn't see a single Michigan labeled on that map. So
snap!
People know what Ohio is, okay? No one cares about your little oven mitt state with its little dangly part that hangs off somewhere else, okay? That's what I'm saying. All right. Okay.
But do come to his classes in Michigan.
Yes, exactly. At any rate. Okay, so let's talk about some pick of the week. So, Mr. Meth, what would you like to share with the audience when it comes to podcasts, blogs, YouTube videos, anything like that? What would you like to share with everybody today?
Well, first off, I gotta hype chat gang. I see some of them in chat there. So first off, hype those guys. But I want to go. I actually just want to call attention to Marok Wolf's YouTube. He just finished his latest Beast Lord, and he's got some photos up on Twitter for that. It's one of the coolest conversions, one of the greatest models I've seen someone like sort of personally do, like kind of in real time. It's amazing. And he was sort of like lamenting not putting up more YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I think we need to peer pressure him into doing it by going and like watching some of his content, because he's got like some great videos on green stuffing and sculpting. Yep. Some of those like harder to do things or less approachable things, I think. And just he's just a good guy. And I think like I think we can audience demand him to start doing some more videos and stuff. He was lamenting a little bit. He kept me he was keeping me a ton of company through my hobby grind to PACA. Like just a great guy, really knows his stuff. And I just want to shout out to Marok Wolf and his YouTube and Twitter. So.
I dig it. That's a great shout out. And yes, the man is a wizard, and we do need to pressure him into doing more videos. Yeah. And just doing more sculpting in general. He needs to start doing that more and sharing his stuff. He's got such talent. Tom.
I'm gonna double down on that. I'm gonna double down. Okay. That's it.
That's your pick.
So y'all really need to go and do that.
Fair enough. Yeah. We'll all go comment, watch, and send him things that says more videos.
Yeah, more peer pressure him into
MOAR, more videos. All right.
Yeah, and that thing, by the way, like if you like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, like you can see the like influence in the model. It's fantastic.
That's true.
So for myself, though obviously next month is Adepticon, as we all know. Time, it draws ever closer. Less than 6 weeks we are now from Adepticon. And
Don't say that.
All right.
oh yeah, it's that soon, folks. As
Yeah.
a matter of fact, it is, as of today, 5 weeks away.
Oh god.
How about that?
I gotta get working faster on like my last bits of stuff.
Get cracking.
Yeah.
So the important part about that is that, of course, we have a bunch of awesome painting competitions going on. I hope to see many people submitting to Resin Beast there, as I'm judging that, one of the judges amongst many other awesome artists with the Creature Caster contest. I've seen some people working on that online. I'm super excited to do that again. And of course, there's also the Golden Demon US here for the first time since 2013, which I think was the last Games Day in the US. Somebody can check me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 2013. And so I am very excited about Golden Demon returning. And if you are too, and you want to put something in, I will direct you all to the very nice article that Max, one of the lead in the heavy metal team and the lead judge for Golden Demon, put up. I will link that down below, where he shares some really nice tips that are very much the same as what he says in the seminar that he gives. On, sort of how to do well in Golden Demon that he gives at every like Warhammer Fest and other things like that, which I highly recommend doing if you're ever at the event. Max is a super open guy, tells you exactly what the judges are looking for. Couldn't be more transparent in what makes you do well in that contest. So if you're somebody who's inclined, go check out that article and go give it a read. I thought it was great. So there you go. I know I'm excited about it. Okay. So let's talk about some hobby time, guys. Meph, what are you working on, buddy?
I am putting the finishing touches on my, I don't know if the camera can see this, on the little like accoutrements for my Bone Tithe Nexus. It got finished. I'm not happy with how it was finished, so I've been learning one of the hardest lessons of Age of Sigmar hobby, which is fixing your mistakes when you've gotten to a point where you need to really go all the way back type thing. So it's been a journey. But yeah, getting all the little like tiny details on the base. I want it to kind of mirror the army and have points of visual interest that are its own, but then like little things that you can pick out from the Nexus and go, like, this was built by not the army, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Because like the whole point is that like, a society will build the Nexus so that like they can take their tithe there and they don't have to like suffer the Bonereapers like wrath and them showing up on your door and knocking for the bones.
Sure.
So I wanted to be like, this is built by not the Bonereapers, but like still have it. Yeah. Like, so it's been a small journey. I'm making a bunch of mistakes as I go, but I'm painting fearlessly, Vince. So
that's the right answer, buddy.
Yeah. So it's been a good time.
Mistakes are just chances to learn in disguise. That's all it is.
I've picked up more techniques in like a month of painting Bonereapers than in like the other 2 years of like Age of Sigmar. So
nice.
because I mean a lot of it is I'm so passionate about the army that it makes me want to be better for them.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. I understand that. Yeah. When you have an army that you really love, you want to rise to meet it, right? Because you want it to be something that shows like, this is a thing I really care about. Right? Yeah. 100%.
Right. And I went through like a year of playing LON when it was like the hated thing, right? Like a Nagash plus 60 Grimghast Reapers. And even though I wasn't playing that build, it was like, walking up to the table and people judge you on like just your model and they see me holding Nagash and they go, ugh, Nagash, and they kind of like start the hate immediately. Bonereapers have a little bit of the stigma going on right now. Where you walk up and if they see airbrush Bone Daddies, they're just like, this guy. So like to put yourself on the table, right? Especially when you so are thoroughly invested in loving what you love, regardless of the internet, regardless of the boogeyman status, regardless of the jobber status, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like owning the army, like I think is putting yourself on that table. And so this is an army that I've really just a lot of my identity is going into it too. So
I love it.
It's pretty cool.
That's great. All right, Tom, back at his painting desk after so many weeks. So many weeks.
I think it's been 8 weeks since I've painted.
There you go. But you're back now, Tom. What are you working on?
Fire Slayers.
There you go.
Yes.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
No, this is perfect.
I mean, like I'm almost there. Like I just put a lot of like, again, Andrew, like I completely agree. Like when I moved, like when I was doing my KO, like I really invested deep in style and technique and all that and getting the color scheme right. And then like when I added my Fire Slayers to them, I doubled down because I wasn't going to do the heavy conversion. So I knew I had to do it with like painting and freehand. So like that's when I freehanded the lava pattern on 30 Volkites, right? And like just really leaned into it. And then so when I got to my Hearthguard, my 40 Hearthguard, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, and so now, like, it's not only the lava pattern and the glowing runes, but also like alternate hair patterns and like the whole deal. You know, so like it's just that evolution of investing, like going deeper into what it looks like to paint the army. And I think that it's going to come out nice, but I'm feeling it. Like I'm feeling the burn right now.
I need you to play Fire Slayers because people don't know fear. Like they're complaining about like they know fear, but they don't truly know it. Like, would you hate Mortek Guard more if they could pile in twice and teleport? I think you would.
Well, there are currently 3 armies that I think are out of whack, and you named 2 of them.
Well, man, was I talking? Did I talk to you about the FAQ? How the only one I was scratching my head on was Fire Slayers?
Yeah, yes. We
that was you. That was on that Rantcast, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
like I'm just like, and now I'm just like, it switched from scratching my head to just like sitting back in my chair with belly laughing like Santa Claus.
Well,
sure. And yes, this is still an OBR show. To answer you in the comments, we will get there. I promise.
Right.
Like I'll say this: like when the Fire Slayer FAQ dropped, and my response was yes, great job. And hold on, and somebody who worked with VW was like, "I think we've made a mistake." Like they're like, "I don't know. Like this feels weird. Something is not right."
If Tom is this excited, we've done something wrong. Yeah.
Like Tom, you like on one of your episodes, you were talking about like, oh, I think the better way to run it is to move away from the blob, run, and it's just like the FAQ taught people to play the army the right way. It's perfect. It's great. I love it.
Fantastic.
Well, like let me push back, and like the FAQ got rid of the blob because the blob was a 30 block, and the 30
that's what he's saying. It taught them how to play correctly. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and it made playing correctly better, like more advantageous.
It rewarded you for being the better list already. Yeah, I know, it's great.
Yeah.
It's like when I drink White Russians. Like I'm just rewarding myself for being an alcoholic. I'm like, this is so good. Like Fire Slayers are the White Russians of armies right now.
Apparently. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, so I'm doing Fire Slayers.
Good. I'm glad you're back at the desk painting, Tom. We're all excited about that. For myself, I finished up my Ironclad this week, which I was very excited about. Obviously, that was a big conversion project that took a while. So that's that. The bad girl is over on the shelf now. And
monstrosity.
What's that?
It's a monstrosity.
It is huge. Like it's hard for me to explain how big that thing is, but yes, it's big. It's real big. It's hard because I couldn't capture the photos. Like I tried to put it in there with a Keeper of Secrets in one of the photos, so you could see that it just like towers over her, like she's this tiny, insignificant things. You could.
For those that don't know, Vince basically created the terrain piece we wanted to make, which was the landing ship for KO that was on the edge of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Missed
he
opportunity.
He modeled the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. It's basically what he did.
Well, here's what's funny about it. So I have like an old school gyro bomber, like not the copter, the actual bomber sitting on my desk, like the actual model. Because somebody a friend had given me one and said, if you want to use this thing for parts, go ahead. I can put that gyro bomber on the deck.
Right.
of the ship that I built. I could land multiple of them on the deck. So there you go.
Yeah.
So now, at any rate, I'm gone back to work on slaves, and I'm working on my lord, my chaos lord on Kakadrak, whatever his name is. This guy.
Kakarot.
Yeah, exactly. For my Crimson Cabal. So I'm excited about this dude. I love this model. This guy was great. A lot of fun to paint. A lot of fun to sort of put together. Like, this is honestly the only thing I hate about the easy to build ones is it's very hard to do sub assemblies with them because they're so weirdly jointed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really sub assemble them. But that being said, they do go together really easy and really cleanly.
They've done a good job. Like, as they've done a good job of hiding seams.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was shocked by how well this all goes together. It's really, really well hidden seams. So he's been a lot of fun. He's almost done. I've just got his medals and stuff to do, and then his weapons. So, and he'll be wrapped up pretty here in the next couple days. So, gentlemen, let's talk about some bone daddies. So
Bueno.
We've seen some results. LLV, in response to the show, was nice enough to give a little update. Hopefully everybody saw that. Latest stats after this weekend puts OBR at 9% of the tournament meta. So pretty significant, right? That's a big chunk.
That was like heyday of LON numbers, around 9%.
Yeah, a very historically large percentage, yes. Yeah. We're on a 60% win rate, and the highest event wins. So the just raw number of event wins is held by them. Ironically, he says the Disciples of Tzeentch representation has fallen off. Could be some players self-comping. I don't disagree with that. Like, I think it's so... I think there's one of those situations where it just feels not great, and so I think a lot of people have self-comped it. And as pointed out, which is like a real bad matchup for them. So the more people self-comping Tzeentch, the better for OBR. Yeah, so there you go. That was kind of some stats he gave us, which I thought was helpful.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, LLV.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Doing the Lord's work as always.
I was just about to say that. Doing the Lord's work. Yeah.
Yes. So that was just a nice little thing that that LLV tweeted out to me, which I very much appreciated. Okay. So, what are we talking about here, guys? Let's ask the breaking question. Let's just start here.
Okay.
Are the Bone Daddies out of line or bent or whatever in some way? Are they too good as they currently exist?
No.
Okay. If no, why? If yes, why? This isn't the kind of show, Tom, where you just give a one-word answer. You may have seen the show before in the hundreds of episodes we've done.
Go ahead,
Meth. No.
No, I don't think they're to use your euphemism, bent leading broken, or bent leaning broken. I don't think they're in that category.
Tzeentch, yes.
Yeah.
And
I think I think their top of A tier might even be S tier, but I think to answer the OBR question, we need to kind of like look at the meta, right, as it stands. And if we believe that we're moving towards this living meta, the rock paper scissors meta, right, which is a sort of natural state I think games head towards once they get robust enough. 1 calendar year ago, OBR would be just disgusting, right?
Sure.
But like, the thing is, we've had 12 books.
Let me pause you and unpack that real quick.
Would it though? Hold on. Would it though?
I think yes, because if we were still in the
DOK would give them a run for their money. Just on mobility and bodies.
If we were in the all melee no shooting meta, they would be a force right up there at the top. Okay.
Right. I think that Doc would really be pushing them hard because they're like rerollable save doesn't turn on in the hero phase when Doc can do their pylons.
Yeah.
I didn't say that unbeatable. I said I think they'd be a stronger force. Yeah. So I agree with that.
I think that's where you'd see them in S tier firmly though. Okay. Right? Like right now, I think they're the top of A tier, and I'd even say S tier. 60% win rate is about where we decided is the tolerant zone for a great army, right? Like, great. I think in in like
hold on.
Yeah.
But is that 60%? I want to push on what you just said though. Is that 60% like with being 10% of the meta? That means there's a lot of bad players playing that army.
Right, because the army
they're
punishes
still maintaining that high of a percentage.
Right.
Petrifex.
That's where I would push back on that data.
Fair enough. I mean, and they lose to the mirror, right? Like, because you're gonna play the mirror a lot, so you're losing the mirror. The thing is this isn't an unbeatable army. It's an army that plays the game fundamentally the same as all armies in Age of Sigmar, and we spend a lot of time talking about Age of Sigmar, a lot more than playing. You might have like the field at a tournament. That might be the most games they play in a year for like the average person at the tournament, right? Sure. These aren't like grinders. Not usually. We're moving towards like a lot more like consistent tournament play. But like they remind me a lot of IDK in that I think they're a litmus test army. And beyond that, they're an army that teaches you to play the game of Age of Sigmar better. Okay. The way IDK and Gavbomb said, like, we knew what chaff was as a meta. Right. Like, we understood what chaff was, but there's a difference between going, I know what chaff is, and knowing the exact range you need to put your chaff screens down to not get killed by the alpha. And so for like one whole year, Gavbomb and alpha armies were just the most NPE ever. And the tournament was
more like 2 months or 3 months, but sure,
fine. I'm hyperbole. Feel free to rein me in constantly. No, but like that's the thing is like that was every now and then there's like an army comes along in anything competitively or the character or whatever you're talking about that forces you to reassess how you play the game and think about the game. I think OBR is one of those armies that forces you to think about playing deployments better and playing objectives better. Because like it's an army that absolutely punishes you for pushing your models straight across the battlefield. And like if you play them straight up, you're going to lose because they have basically taken all of the bars, slid them down to like 5, and then just pumped up the melee grinder.
Yep, sure.
They are a melee grinder army.
They very much win in almost any attrition battle.
Any of the attrition. This is an attrition army. And I think if we talk about like the rock, paper, scissors, the way I was kind of conceptualizing it before I came into this episode, because I knew I wanted to talk about it, is like our rock, paper, scissors might be, and this is just for argument's sake, might come down to shooting. And shooting can mean magic, like if you're range, we'll say range.
I understand what you mean. Yes,
right.
We can take siege-style shooting into account, where it's heavily, where there's plenty of normal shooting, but it's also backed up by magical shooting. Yes.
Right. Yeah, so ranged, attrition, alpha.
Okay.
And so good alpha, right, tends to be a great equalizer for shooting armies.
Sure.
Like, IDK, we're still just like, holding back Skaven, even when Skaven was disgusting, right? You deploy half your army off the ground, you jump into stuff. Attrition's going to beat alpha. And then in turn, like the sort of final piece of the puzzle.
I don't hate your triangle. That's a nice triangle.
Right. And I think this is kind of where I've settled the triangle. And now some armies are mushroom. But like that's because we play 3-dimensional game. Battle plans are the great equalizer.
Sure.
Battle plans and dice are the great equalizer. The thing is I think Petrifex Elite, because that's what everyone is complaining about.
Sure, of course,
is forcing you to reassess how you play the objectives game.
So let me say this real quick here. We're going to say OBR this whole time. Like when I'm asking this question, I phrased it as is OBR bent, right? But realistically, we might as well be just talking about Petrifex Elite because for all
nobody played anything else.
Right. That's just is what is played. It is simply the choice. Period. Like I'm not saying every table game ever where Bone Daddies have hit the table is Petrifex Elite. I know there are plenty of people
at event. Like what's going 60% and it's 10% of the meta is Petrifex.
Right. When you look in sort of a weekend and you see that there are 37 OBR games playing, or 37 OBR armies at major tournaments, and 36 to 37 of them are Petrifex Elite. That's telling, right? So for the purposes of this conversation, like we'll talk a little bit later about the sub-factions. Like we'll talk about Mortis Praetorians and Null Myriad and stuff and other things there, because I think there is interesting elements to explore there.
Well, I think what's going to happen is a lot of OBR players are leaning on Petrifex Elite right now.
Yes.
Like they're heavily leaning on it for like an extra win against an inexperienced player at a tournament. I think that's what really like. This is an art. When I look at the breadth
also
of the
because
meta,
it's just really good.
It's really good, but I can build you a Mortis Praetorians list that you go, yep. the thing is, Mortis Praetorians, you have to build a list with it in mind. Like, you have to go, I'm taking these pieces to maximize this army. With Petrifex Elite, you just go, seems good, throw it in, right? Like, doesn't matter. You don't really have to think about the list. You just go, this stuff goes in here now.
And, yeah, I mean, as LLV just said, in tournaments, out of a 9% faction representation, which I think is like either the highest or second highest right now in the meta.
Right. And it's a 100% new army. It's a 100% new army in a largely, like, thin Grand Alliance. Death. Sure. We've been one of the thinnest Grand Alliances. Yes, even considering Destruction. Sorry, Destruction bros. Like, people are going to play that army. People are going to play that army.
I'm just saying that's a huge representation for a single chamber.
But this is, I look at it in a robust meta with answers where people are like learning the lesson as a 4-1 army that struggles to go 5-0 once the pieces, the chips kind of fall. Like, a Skaven army played well is an auto loss waiting to happen for that army. Like, you don't have the keep back units to screen the gnaw holes. You don't do anything unfair. One of the saving graces to where people ultimately were like, I'm fine with DOK. Inevitably fine with DOK, right? Once we saw, Skaven, Slaanesh, Flesh Eater Courts, we're like, this is just where the game's at now. We're at a new bar. Once we saw that, we went, okay, DOK, whatever. Because, like, DOK was at least playing you fair, right? It's just bodies and grinders trying to fight you. Mm-hmm. Like, they're much faster than Petrifex Elite. Because that's what we're talking about.
Well, maybe. We'll see. Like, we'll get there when we talk about lists. But, okay, so fair enough. I get it. Those are all good reasons. I don't super disagree with any of them. Tom, anything you want to add to the no, they're not bent, out of bounds, whatever? Like, I'm trying, by the way, folks, I'm trying to keep my term unloaded here because the nature of internet discussion around this tends to be like vitriolic and go to extremes.
Yeah.
Right? Where everybody says this thing is the worst or this thing is the best. And it's just like there's no nuance. So the reason I'm liking the word out of bounds is because it's not a very loaded term. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so what I'll say is this. The army had, like, the way the army is designed, the floor of minimum play is raised way up.
Yes.
Okay? So, like, you can be a bad player and do very well with that army, right? Mm. But the army itself, at the highest end, does not have all the tools. Mm-hmm. They don't. And actually, like, that mobility thing in bodies thing at the end of the day is actually kind of a big deal. Like, it's kind of really a big deal about holding those objectives in the back and all that stuff. Like, all of that becomes a real issue. Okay. And so in light of that, I would say... the more I think about it, like, I think that it is the top of what I would want to see in the meta. And it becomes what we would call like a gatekeeper army. Because what that means is that you need to be able, like, it's one of those things that, like, you need to be prepared to face it in a major event and beat it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's definitely a gatekeeper at this point, yes.
Yeah.
It alone has ushered in the high armor gatekeeper.
Right, like it is profuse and it's easy to play. Like, and what I mean when I say easy, like what
you push your model towards the middle.
Yeah, like it's a non-mechanically like complex army, right? Mm-hmm. But it also has some major weaknesses against like key armies in the meta as well. Not only something like Tzeentch, but I would also argue even Fire Slayers.
Like Fire Slayers
is a bad matchup for OBR. Like, if the Fire Slayer player knows what they're doing, it is a bad matchup for the OBR.
Yes, the third in the other out of bounds armies. Yeah. So I'm going to take the opposite position to this.
You think it's broke?
No, because again, I don't want to say the word broken. Okay.
Sure.
I think it is out of bounds. But let me see if I can nuance that position. I don't think it's hugely out of bounds. Okay? So my point here is this is a tough case. Because what we've got here is an army that's kissing the top of... You're right. Like, what we've all said, Meph, is that, what we're willing to tolerate is this 40 to 60%, right?
The
but at the same time, we have this interesting situation where we've got such a huge representation. It's still maintaining that number. That should be alarming to us, right? And at a deeper level, I'm not just like, those numbers are all very useful and interesting. Like, they're good. Those are useful stats because they point us toward problems, but they're the beginning of the discussion, not the end. And ultimately, my argument would be something like this. The fact that they are so cookie cutter, pick up and go, and can be such a brutal experience that directly crushes all but, like, they are the exact crush counter to the way many players in this game tend to play. Not just new, but like new to moderate players tend to play. And like, you're right, it's a fair point to say they challenge you to play better. I don't disagree with that, right? Like that is true. They certainly do, okay? But in my estimation, the fact that they're that pull the trigger, go, is problematic for the same reasons that I thought FEC was problematic and needed addressing. Because Gristlegore FEC was point, click, shoot, win, right? And you can do a lot of point, click, shoot, win with OBR against a lot of the match. And ultimately, what happens to the top tables, that's the problem when we say, like, well, this army has weaknesses or it's not unbeatable. Well, of course, that's true for everything. This is AOS. As you said, scenarios are a great equalizer. You know, like, there's just too many random elements. Literally nothing in this game is unbeatable, right? Even Tzeentch, which I consider highly offensive still, okay, and a worst case of bent, trending, broken, okay, is like, even that still gets beat quite regularly, right? Because that's not what the bar is. The bar to me is, one, is it overtly powerful in too many matchups? Yes. Two, does it have too easy of a strategy to put together to win? And is it especially punishing against new to moderate skill players? Yes. By the way, piloted by other new to moderate skill players. I'm not talking about, like, the skill differential here where you've got a master playing somebody who's a medium skill. That person should win almost regardless of what army they're piloting, right? I'm talking, like, two people of equal skill level in the new to moderate area. One of them takes their basically autopilot Khorne, Ogre, Iron Jaws, whatever. Pick somebody in that area of the meta you like, okay? Army. And one takes their autopilot OBR army. Who wins that matchup 7 out of 10 times? Right? It's the OBR. And so, to me, and this is stemming from one systematic point. Petrifex is too good. It's that easy. Because most of what this army's doing, I really like. And I like it for the same reason I think you like it. I like them having high armor. Right? I actually think that's cool. I think that's a good gatekeeper in the meta. I think high armor is something we were lacking.
Well, reminding you that true high armor armies are a thing. I'm redundant save garbage.
Just like, somebody who's got high armor. Yep. Great. I don't mind high armor in the meta. I think that's fantastic. That's perfectly fun. Right? My problem is and always will be, and you and I think, talked about this.
We talked about this. Yeah, the Rend.
When you take a unit that's too much of an anvil and you put it together with too much of a hammer in a package that's too easy to take, right? Where I didn't have to stretch, I didn't have to sacrifice. OBR point costed pretty correctly, but it's not like yes, you could get more stuff, but I think their points, like I'm saying, they could be cheaper and you could get more and blah, 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 or they could be more expensive and you could get less. But to me, they feel like they're actually about in the right place, point-wise. I don't know that I would recommend much points adjustments.
I like the Elite Undead, and I like that you have, like, 3 distinct undead styles. Like, Feck is the Monster Mash undead, right? Yeah. That's where they settle in. Like, OBR settle in as Elite Undead, and you have your, like, sort of, like, Horde Undead, I think, is where, like, LOG, LON, etc. fall in.
100%.
And I think that's cool. And real quick, just because there's a more busted army, like Fire Slayers and Tzeentch, doesn't mean OBR is, like, is less of a problem, you
Yes,
know, because what you're getting at.
Yes, the
Like-
fact that there's a serial killer that killed 20 people when you've only got 12 bodies buried in a national park doesn't make you not a serial killer.
My main point is, like, I don't think OBR are affinity to really like gloss over.
I
some
definitely
people.
agree with that. Yeah,
I think
no
they're
question.
can thresh.
Sure.
Like, as in, like, tempo as a ideal of gameplay in Magic the Gathering was a concept a lot of really skilled players had an understanding of, but like moderate to beginner players had no idea.
I've
Like,
got
simply.
Do you know what I think? This is maybe a more apt comparison. Original Sly.
Okay.
Okay. You remember original Sly when it came out? You know what I mean by Sly, right? Just the standard curve out, red thing.
Yeah.
1 2 1 2 3 2 2s, 2 2s win the game, right? That was the
This is your efficiency curve, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a very different example because that was like the hyper offensive army compared to defensive OBR. But my point is Sly was a very cheap, easy deck to build at the time when it came out. It was very easy to deploy. Like, it had almost like an auto play strategy. What you played on any given turn was dead drop obvious, right? It was like, I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I win.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, nobody was playing with Wastelands before before Can Thresh, and like mongooses were winning.
Yeah, sure. And it absolutely punished new to moderate players that didn't understand how to respond to that kind of extreme tempo.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And the other thing it does is it capitalizes off of you making a misplay if you have no idea what's going on already.
Yeah.
Like, the minute you're off balance in the tempo matchup or even like the Sly, they got you. Yep. And I think that's where OBR is at. But the thing is like, we learn, like, MTG, like the average MTG base all came up and rose to the occasion there. And I have faith that Age of Sigmar players will rise to that level where they're going to go, what we are doing to beat this army that for all intents and purposes is playing you straight up. They're pushing their models straight towards you. They're winning with armor, which, spoiler, mortals in high rend beat them. Well, and then they do red themselves. We'll
talk about alternative builds that I think are actually better, but sure.
Yeah.
The standard game
tell
plan,
them my build. No. Yeah, like, that's the thing is, like, at its face value, Petrifex Elite is, on one hand, the other side of this is it's a user-friendly army for new players too. It teaches them the basics of the game in a way that Stormcast Eternals do not.
Sure.
Like, like for like a poster boy army, like Stormcast Eternals and Khorne are like the worst armies to try to pick up as a beginner. Like, Bonereapers, if you sit at that floor, you're going to have competitive, solid games at the, like, this sort of next step I foresee coming in the very near future, where people have figured out not just like, oh yeah, play objectives, but how to play objectives. Like,
here's the thing,
every time go ahead. Yeah.
Here's my honest answer. This is the biggest problem with the simplest fix. Okay? In my estimation, most of the times that these problems come about, they're actually like there's multiple contributory factors, and doing a fix is kind of tricky, right? Like, when you looked at Slaanesh, it was kind of a tough thing to unpack exactly how to fix it, right? There was lots of potential solutions. How much do we play with locusts? How much do we play with the depravity, right? How much does the double pile-in matter? Right? There's all these kind of different things with Slaanesh that made it good. And so the question was, how do you, if we screw with all those different dials and get one a little too wrong, the army's just going to collapse immediately, right? Whereas here, the answer is Petrifex. We know it is because everybody takes Petrifex, right? And when it's that much of a choice, it just tells you we're out of bounds. Like, immediately, that's a self-evident choice that it's out of bounds. Okay? It just, like, it becomes, the people have spoken and said, when I want power, 90% of a 9% meta has taken this one thing and done incredibly well with it. Too well. Okay? So the answer is jettison the Rend. Like, that command ability needs to go. It's just the wrong one. I don't know what the command ability is that replaces it. Something way weaker. Something that's not offensive. Okay?
Rend is only as good as your opponents, though. Like, it's, like, it only goes as far as...
adding Rend is one of the most brutal things you can do in the game most of the time. And right now, as they stand, they're not really afraid of ghosts and stuff like that. That isn't random.
No.
Right. Like I pity the poor spirits that go against most OBR forces. So, like, my point is, though, that would be the light touch I would do. And to some people, that might sound like not a light touch. I think that's being way lighter touch, right? I'm not suggesting to get rid of the +1 armor save across the board. Okay? Which is the most powerful sub-allegiance ability they have printed. The only thing that comes close is in Zeech, is that everybody gets -1 rend effectively, and even that's somewhat cut to only part of the army, right? Because it's only 3 different units, effectively. I know there's a little more than that in the weird hero chariots and stuff, but it's effectively 3 units. And you can't retreat from this.
But that stops you from playing the game. Like, we don't win Age of Sigmar by dealing damage at the end of the day. Like, which is why, like, arguments that hinge on a unit being too defensive or a unit being too damaging is, I feel, a flawed argument. Tons of stuff deals infinite damage. Tons of stuff takes infinite damage. Like, like, as long as
here's my argument, though. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying,
Yeah.
but here's the problem with your argument. You're saying in tournament scenario games played well, damage doesn't win. Agreed. Okay? Top level players don't lose games because of damage.
Right.
You know what I mean? They play around that. They know how to contain, avoid. They know how to pick those things. Whatever.
Target priority is really refined.
But
like,
that's
they know,
not what wins most games. Like, 90% of the games of Age of Sigmar that are played, they're decided on damage. Because people push their armies forward and go have fights over objectives. Because if I just when I watch other people in my group play, they're like, well, we're going to have a punch up because that's how we came to play. That's why we decided to play this game.
And in your LGS scene, just don't take Petrifex then. Like, you can do that. But the army has some easily exploitable flaws. I don't want to say keep the Ren, by the way. I think this is an elegant solution. I'm saying the hate is unfounded. Like, if you turn off your brain because you just hate an army so much, you so fervently, every statistic you read goes to your point of why I should hate it rather than why I think it's a good thing, yada, yada, yada. You're already in that fight or flight mode. Your reason has turned off. You're going to stop solving the problem. This army had, like, I played it and I go, oh, wow, I know how to beat my army with my own Beast of Chaos. Supposedly one of the worst armies in the entire game. Like, I'm like, I know exactly how to beat my own army. Like, I'm like, yeah, I can do infinite damage to Ungor Raiders. Like, congratulations.
Sure.
Like, the problem is solvable. And right here, James S. in chat here says, your idea of player-based rising is flawed because your average MTG player can play 10 games in the time your average AOS player can play 1. This is true. This is a very big advantage of Magic and any grinder game. Street Fighter, doesn't matter. The player base of AOS will leave before they learn. And I think that's because the community, when I say the community can be better, I mean, rather than like just giving the person the hard L at the LGS or going on the internet and complaining about how OBR is busted, there's nothing anyone can do about it, we just need to wait for nerfs, is counterproductive to the community. It's counterproductive to teaching people to learn. You need to teach people to learn. Mm-hmm. And part of that is, like, you know, not holding back, but not like crushing them every game. They're like, if they're just pushing models straight forward and they lose the game, then you sit there and you talk about like game moves. Well, you know, if you had attacked this flank here on the thin side, every time I'm losing a game with OBR, it's because someone's attacking a thin side of my models. I don't get a double pile.
So I get what you mean. But let me say this. One, that assumes you know that. And I'd already said you're a good player who's thought a lot about this. You are not representative of the player base.
But you and I can help teach them with our awesome clout right now.
And then two, what's the easier solution?
Yeah.
We've got a problem here that we both admit this is a challenge. But let's not even use the word problem. I want you to come back in, Tom, but let me just say this real quick. We both admit there is a challenge. Fair statement? That the army represents a challenge. I think it's more significant. You think it's less. But we both agree it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, and I think it's don't think I'm not saying the army's great.
Sure.
The army is great. I love the army. It's awesome.
So there's two ways we can solve this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Option one, We trust the entire player base, including brand new players who don't have the experience of the 22 forces in this game, right? To all simultaneously get better. Or 2, we change one sub-allegiance ability. Which one is the easier solution? I'm gonna go for the Occam's razor here.
So easiest solution doesn't mean best solution.
No, you're right. It doesn't always.
Like,
but in this case, I would argue it certainly is.
I expect better, and the thing is, I think the player base has gotten smarter every year Age of Sigmar's been out. Has gotten better at playing games. They got like the rage against eels, like people forget at the beginning of their stats that they had top 3 finishes in basically every major coming out the gates. Like these new armies that are pub stompers that teach you to rethink how you play the game. We've seen them before. Even Slaanesh, like I hated the ban Slaanesh thing. Shelf Slaanesh was probably that was the more mature. That was the right answer.
Every one of those
but the thing
got
is,
adjusted.
Yeah,
VC
but like
got adjusted.
Yeah,
Slaanesh got adjusted.
And
even Doc got somewhat adjusted.
And Petrifex Elite will get adjusted too. So it's like it's like beating this dead horse of like this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. Who do you think hasn't heard you yet? So like now that you have won, the army's going to be changed one way or another. Like how about we learn the lesson that they're teaching us too? Like the methodology of throwing your child in a pool to teach them to swim.
I get it.
That's obviously the wrong thing to do. But you're not just going to keep them out there.
I've seen some of those YouTube videos where the babies float and they keep like.
All right, we haven't let Tom talk for a little while.
All right, Tom. Yeah,
please, Tom.
Okay, let me just say, let me throw out a hypothetical, like for you to push back against. I'm not saying that this is the right solution, but here's another possible solution. You've attacked the Rend, Vince.
Sure.
Okay. What if we attack the defenses? And I know you love them being a high armor army. That's fine.
Great. I'm okay with that. I'm open to other solutions because it could also be that instead of the just generic army ability is +1 to save, that could replace the command ability, and the command ability could be that they turn on a +1 to save, and now they've got to burn an RDP on it.
Right. Maybe. My suggestion was, what if it was something like, and I know that you're going to hate on this because you hate after saves, but they have a 6-up after save, right?
They have a 6-up after save, yes.
And it can't be augmented no matter what the liars on the internet say. It's a 6-up after save. They can get a 5-up mortal wound save to a single unit with a spell.
Of course.
So like I've seen prominent figures lying about the army. They're twos and twos to wound. So then these new players who don't know any better go around and parrot that. That's why OBR is busted. Like identify the real problems here, which is the Rend, and then now the point you're making.
Okay.
Sure.
So what if the universal +1 save was just a universal move the after save down to 5+?
Oh, so like they're just so that's it.
Yeah. So rather than everybody going from a 4 to a 3-up, Nagash going to a 2-up. What if the after save just went from a 6 to a 5?
Sure. There was somebody else who suggested like ignoring Neg 1 Rend, so they basically have a version of the Lizard Man ability, right? There could be all sorts of different takes on this, frankly, right? Obviously,
yeah.
My point is this: we can have I don't even want to necessarily like. There are probably 5 decent solutions to how to fix Petrifex, but the answer is unless Petrifex is changed, there is no reason right now that anyone's going to take the rest of them, the rest of the things, and it will continue to be the 9 out of 10 choice. Right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean it's the Hagnar.
It's Hagnar.
Right.
It's Hagnar, but worse, because my argument would be if we changed Petrifex, let's say Petrifex just tomorrow. Let's just say we ruin Petrifex. Okay. Like for funsies, let's just ruin Petrifex.
Yeah, it's ruined. I'm playing Mortis Praetorians already.
Exactly. I believe there are still perfectly viable choices, right? I'm not sure Doc doesn't like collapse in a big way. Not all the way. It doesn't become like a 30% army. Doc has a lot of innate strengths. It's this weird house of cards that has to be built in a very specific way, and that specific way is generically Hagnar. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, the other the other houses in there, the other chambers, the other murder cults, whatever, are all much more fiddly and difficult and don't have just like the raw power of Hagnar, right?
Right.
So like I think you see this massive drop in dock efficacy if you kill Hagnar. I'm not sure you see such a huge thing if you kill out Petrifex completely. Like if we just erased it, if we replaced all of it with Ipsum Lorum and you were forced to take something else, I'm not sure the army still doesn't have perfectly viable, strong upper fat middle choices. Right?
Right.
Because I do think that the fundaments of the army are strong, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
This right here, Rend getting far more command points every army than every other army combined. So like the thing about RDP is I do think it's very well balanced within the full context of the game. Like you get a bunch more command points than anybody else. Sure, cool, whatever. Every ability in the army takes them except for the +1 thing. Like everything you do takes this. Sure. There are armies out there that give you their steroids just for existing, like exploding sixes or double pylons or smashing and bashing or like any number of positional buffs that just you get auras. Like everything that the army does, Mr. Warner, is hinged on our far more command abilities than anybody else. And by the way, we can't use the generic command abilities. You will never miss re-rolling charges more than playing this army.
Nope,
and being able to use the Hish command ability to double activate an army that is devoid of activation wars.
Yeah, I legitimately don't have a problem with RDP.
That is, I see this take all the time, and it just.
I mean, we could. Here's the thing. The discussion around RDP could be like, maybe it needs to be a little lighter. Like maybe it needs to come down by an average of 1 to 2. So there's a little more pressure on its usage. So you have to be slightly more precious about it.
Sure.
Like that could be a discussion to have, right? That the average army is maybe slightly too high. And I mean slightly, like literally 1 to 2. Okay.
So different armies have different criteria for their abilities to work, Warner, you might say. This army's criteria is to build a list with enough RDP in mind to turn on all your steroids because they're all hinged to RDP. And the massive trade-off between list building, like achievements, picking the correct generals, having the right amount of units, things like that, taking Catacross, he's like an auto-include for that reason, like things like that. And then the trade-off is you don't get the generic command abilities that are, quite frankly, awesome crutches. Yeah, other armies don't have a billion command points. But when you can reroll a charge and the game is so often determined on positioning, it feels like the best command point you've ever spent.
Okay.
Or when you can auto run 6.
Yeah, sure. So I don't want to get too deep into the like we've beat this horse enough. Okay. This horse has officially become a Death Rider.
And beating. Okay.
We've harvested its bones. We've rebuilt it into a Staliarch Lord. All right. So, but I want to talk about some other stuff with OBR. All right. Because we've laid our opinions bare, and we will now let it to the audience to decide. My only closing little thought on this is to say, I think that any problems in army building out of balance, for the most part, when we look at where GW has challenges in the books, it is and still continues to be relegated to the chambers, to the sub-allegiances.
Yep.
Like, that's where these problems tend to live, right? We see it over and over and over and over again. Hagnar and Gristlegore and. There are some exceptions. Slanesh was one, right? But for the most part, so many of these have been sub-allegiances. Okay. So, let's talk about some other stuff that I want to get onto.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mr. Meth, did you see the list from CanCon that was up in the top 3?
Yes.
Oh, man, you're missing
out.
So, do we want to? Let's talk about that list. So that
I loved
it. Yes, and this right here is one of the like best anecdotes that sort of talks about the challenge of Petrifex. So this army was something like, off the top of my head, since I have this in front of me, it was Nagash, I believe is how we say that word around these parts.
Yeah. It was Nagash and all of the murder ponies, which was the second list I built after I built my Cavalos Lance Ballistari list.
Right.
The first I built that. The second list I built, and I was like snickering about it because I sent Halo a tweet and I said, or a message, and I said, I just made Bonereapers as Beastclaw Raiders. Yeah. It was just like the smallest amount of models I could fit into the army. And I was like snickering and I was laughing and I'm like, man, that'll be a cute list to build later on this year after I get my like core list built. And then like, I shelved the idea and then I watch it win, take second at the largest Age of Sigmar singles event in the world. And I go, I was just joking about it.
So this list fascinated me because obviously it's Nagash, a ton of ponies. I think it was 25 Death Riders. That sounds about right. Yep. And then one of the
15 2/5s in the battalion with Nagash.
Yeah, and then like probably one of the other casters. I think. I don't know.
I think the way I had it built is you can get a Lance and Nagash, and like that's about it.
Gotcha.
And I think you can get the Shrieker in.
Yeah. So
that. I
don't remember if he had one of the little secondary casters or not, but in any case,
he might have had a Shaper, but I don't think so. Nagash he's like it's a 2-liter list.
Yep. So what was fascinating to me about the list was you have a horsey horse list, right? The liege and all the ponies and all this, and Nagash, and you look at that, and on the surface, you would go, if you knew nothing, if I just explained to you kind of the basics, right? That there are these things called Ossiarch lords, right? And that's what you take if you want to run ponies. Mm-hmm. No, this guy was Petrifex, and it was brutal. And go
ahead.
And what I loved about the list is how orthogonal it played to how you would expect it to play. Okay? Because he used, in my opinion, the best spell in the book, okay, and the best spell in the book being the protection of Nagash.
Yeah, right. So the spell where Nagash is like, I feel like I die a little too much.
Right.
He's like, I know, I will make a spell to protect myself. What am I going to call it? Protection from not from Nagash. Protection to Nagash. Protection of Nagash. Got it. And then he casts it on himself. It's great.
So he can, so I'll just refresh everybody's memory on this spell because I don't know how much we talked about it if you're not familiar with the army. Protection of Nagash has a casting value of 6. If you successfully cast, roll a dice each time a wound or mortal wound is allocated to the caster. On a 5+, that wound or mortal wound is negated. If any wounds or mortal wounds are allocated to the caster and not negated, and the caster is not slain, remove them from the battlefield after all the wounds or mortal wounds have been allocated, then set them up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from any enemy units. After setting up the model, this spell is unbound. So, effectively, it sort of protects you, right? It gives you a 5-up after save for some limited amount of time until you get kind of attacked, right? And then it's going to protect you for the duration of that series of attacks, and then allow you to bounce in some way.
Reposition.
Reposition, yes. You can pick up and set down.
The opponents who have beaten my Petragash list have not attacked Nagash, by the way. Sure. they discovered the savvy players realized that giving me a reposition on Nagash is way too strong for me. Like, I want you to hit me.
Right.
So like my new Petragash list actually does take Pendulum. I'm tired of people not shooting it. I want my new Petragash list actually takes Pendulum after Wapaka. I'm like, man, if I could just have teleported Nagash this game, I'd have won it.
Yeah.
And so I joke. I think a lot of people were joking about the Pendulum Nagash thing. No. I'm fucking doing it now. I'm tired of not being able to again, a lot of my opponents just realize just don't fight the business and outposition me and then take their good units that do kill 20 and 30 blocks of Mortek Guard or tie them up, and then just outscore me on the table. I'm like, if Nagash could just get over there, he would be killing everything because he's a god of death. So I love the spell. It's great. I spoke with the player of the list. Josh was his name. He actually knew they were going to be in Gairan, and that's why he selected that army.
Sure.
Why he built that way. My great problem with Ossiarch Lords is the Kavalos Lance battalion because it gives you half of what Staliarch Lords
Of
does.
course. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And so this is more to the like whole like Petrifex. People just build Petrifex.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because you take the battalion and then you do half what Staliarch Lords do anyway.
Right.
So like Staliarch Lords seems to be the answer when people get good at beating OBR. Hashtag get good. And then the OBR players quit leaning on their crutch of +1 save and +1 rend and realize, wait a second, we need mobility, and then they're going to migrate over to Staliarch Lords. One of the things that are stopping OBR players from learning that lesson is the Cavalos Lance. Is the Cavalos Lance.
Yes, I agree. And what was fascinating to me about watching that list work is the brutal, explosive speed it had, right? Because with all of that cavalry, like I watched him play a Tzeentch player in one of the last rounds, and he rolled over him. I mean, he rolled over him. It was roll tide, okay? Because why I say it's orthogonal to the normal performance is because oftentimes Nagash, when you see him play traditionally, he would like kind of sit in the back of armies and just he's out there and his troops are moving forward and gumming up the works and stuff, and he's just kind of back there casting and things like that, right? And just being that kind of dude. Whereas in this list, he becomes this with protection on. He becomes this bully, right? You just push him forward. Like, get him out there and put your opponents into this position where they suddenly have to deal with the god of death who's coming for them hard. While all your ponies...
If you lean into him, he just leaves.
He can leave or get behind you, or he'll reposition on your army in a way you didn't want him to do, right? And meanwhile, the horsies are so fast because you're just burning off all your RDP to basically give them all 3 movement and get them out to where they want. And they're just like claiming and holding every objective.
And you don't have to. The funny thing is with them is that you don't actually have to spend the RDP every time they fight to give them the reroll all saves, because Nagash just turns on his reroll 1s,
right?
And they're already 3-up reroll 1s then, so they're almost as hard as Mortek.
Yeah, you can choose whether or not you want to use that. Yes, exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's just on because it's offensive.
Yeah, I'm saying you can choose whether or not you think it's going to be a situation where you need to account for, like, if you're in some kind of rend. You know, if you're in a fight without rend, you just, okay, cool, never mind. I'll just rely on the Nagash thing, right? Yes.
Right. Well, no, you don't have Mortek Guard because their ability that they turn on is their charge mortal wound ability. It's not the reroll all saves.
Yes.
And so the point is that they don't need the reroll all saves of the Mortek. That they can spend that RDP on running and on doing mortal wounds when they hit.
Yeah, I understand your point now. Sorry, I misunderstood your point.
Yeah.
Yes, you're exactly right. It was shocking to me how fast and effective it was because the ponies would spread out. They'd go clean up. And meanwhile, Nagash is just like, he's just getting shoved down the throat of the enemy army. Right?
Right.
And he just keeps like, zoop, 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 because he's putting himself in positions where he keeps being able to do that.
Yeah, I had a KO player not realize he should stop shooting at Nagash. And so it's just like every turn I'd put in the most optimal position to assault you. Like, I would blink from one side of the table, one side of his forces. It was like a bad cartoon, like Scooby-Doo, where the gang just runs one way, and then the monster comes, and then they run the other way. It was like that, except Nagash was like both the gang and the monster, because like I'm trying to get away from his threat units that can actually kill me, the Ren 2 shooting, all that stuff. And then I'm like, over here, we actually Halo and I mathed it out. Even Petragash, it is a green percentage chance that a fully beefed up murder horn will kill Nagash off the charge. So it's best for you to just teleport in the charge phase. Like, hope that the Stone Lord gets a mortal wound through your 4-up, 4-up, 6-up, and then a 4-up, 6-up, 5-up, and then teleport.
Right.
Because like you don't want to get locked in with that Boulderhead Stonehorn.
That's funny. So yeah, it was just a fascinating take on the list to me. I loved it. I loved the way it played because it was so fast, and it didn't have to play in the just sort of move to the middle. Like, Mortek have more speed than people account for, being a sort of base 7 move unit effectively, right? Because in general, if you need to move them, you'll spend the RDP to move them, right? Like, if that's what you're needing to do, you will do it.
Spoiler, you need to do it most of the time.
Right. And so, like, they're faster than people expect, but the ponies with that go real fast.
Well, and then retreat and charge is like what they're getting, right? And that is one of the best abilities in the game of Age of Sigmar. If ponies could fly, they would just be such the clear-cut best unit in that book, but they can't. So they're just like the second best.
They're just pretty good.
They're just pretty good instead of like the best. My fear with all this talk is that OBR are going to get hit in the wrong way to fix them, because I see a lot of people misidentifying the problems with the army.
Okay.
And like, they're again an army that has its flaws and are beatable. What's cool about the pony list is you go from like an attrition style army to a beatdown army. You begin dictating where the fights happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is why that's accounting for a flaw. Now you're also doubly investing in one of the flaws, which is you are yet fewer models still.
It doesn't matter if your opponent doesn't have anything alive.
But if they don't have anything alive, right? And so, like, I mean, again, you have to. Yeah.
It's a harder army if you get caught flat-footed. Certainly, like Mortec don't care at all for the most part. In 90, let's call it 9% of cases, Mortec don't care about getting caught flat-footed, right? Like they're perfectly happy to take a charge. Like, well, they come here.
They play like 40 blocks of skeletons used to.
Sure.
For me, like the thing I love about Ossiarch Bonereapers is also something people hate about it, but like it plays like my old Nagash plus 100 army. It was like just Nagash and 100 skeletons was my old army. I loved that army. And I just get to play that again, except like in a game that has 8 objective battle plans and has, because like I am 3 inches faster than my normal skeletons, right? Like I get to do that, except I don't have to lug 100 models to a tournament now. It's just 50 now or 25. Like sure. I love that about the army. It's like they were really mindful and they tightened up what a lot of the death things are, with kind of removing some of the things that are such glaring weaknesses in an army as to where they become unplayable, which is like mono Death Star style, like old school death, where like all your whole house of cards is in like one single model. And if that dies, it all falls apart. Like OBR don't play like that. They can actually project power to more than one space. They every one of their units is the projection of power, essentially. Minus the Shapers and I would suggest the Harvesters. Those are complement pieces. Those are the chinks in the armor you target first. Like, it's I actually love the design of the army, and it sucks to have this black cloud over the whole thing that has, even if they fix Petrifex, will have ruined everyone's opinion on it, because they let a couple hot takes kind of like spoil an army.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Slaanesh problem. Like, people still... Slaanesh has been, like, very much kicked.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's... Slaanesh rolls over and dies to a lot of forces now, and it has much, much, much tougher games in many cases. I'm fine with that. I think it's where it should be. I think it's correct now. Okay?
Well, the other thing that's happening is people have figured out that you actually just target the units in Slaanesh and not the heroes, which was, like, something that was just absolutely infuriating to me. Was like, just target the heroes, like, because that was the meme response everyone generated on the internet. I'm like, no, target their other stuff. That breaks the chain in depravity.
Sure,
like
it does.
A keeper doing infinite damage to a unit of skeletons. Like, who gives a crap? Like, just fight like do infinite damage to the skeletons over there. I'm going to take out and so people, they got nerfed, and then people have also started to figure out the army. And I don't think they're not just going to slide from S tier all the way to F tier or whatever, but they've taken a double hit. This is that dreaded, you get an adjustment and then the meta adjusts. Like, so you get hit kind of twice. And that happened to Slaanesh. They equalized out. Flesh Eater Courts got the same thing. Flesh Eater Courts actually got the triple hit. So they got nerfed, and then they got the GHB hit too.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're probably
the command
they're
point.
Still quite a powerful army. But
I think they're the best death army. Like, they don't take the hard L's the way OBR do at the once you play the things that headhunt OBR. Like, Flesh Eater Courts don't take losses to that stuff.
Agree to disagree. They're the best death army, but I think they're still quite good. So let's talk about some other elements of the army here that I really want to reconsider and just have a discussion around, as I'm about to sneeze. Maybe. Nope. Okay. It passed.
Sneeze button. Okay.
I was about to hit my mute, but yes, it passed. Let's talk about them because you mentioned them. Let's talk about crawlers, man. Let's talk about them catapults.
Mhm.
Okay. One of the things that makes me think that this army is actually pointed quite correctly is I do see a lot of people making choices. And I really do believe the problem lies in Petrifex and almost completely Petrifex, right? Like that
Right.
if that is corrected in any of the 5 ways that end up being like we sitting here aren't going to have the right answer. Do you know what the right answer is? Test all 5 ways a lot and then figure out what's the right way to correct it. That's how you actually do it.
Yeah.
In the same way you didn't just fix Lanesh by just ripping out a fix, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time playtesting different things. But people make real choices here, and crawlers are one of those things that often comes in the choice thing, right? Of do you have crawlers or not?
Yeah, you commit to. I think you commit to crawlers or you don't, and you commit to like your sort of like hero allotment. You can't do it all. That's what's beautiful about this book's internal balance. Actually, put Petrifex in the bubble of it is a dead horse. I'm personally tired. Like a lot of my malice, like in talking about OBR, comes from like we get it, you hate it. I understand. It's already in the works to be fixed, I assure you. Let's move on to talking about the cool stuff. Like, I'm not shelving my army. I get to play with my toys. Everyone should. The thing is once you like go into like building the list, it's everything costs like 200 points. So you're just like you're making really meaningful choices on like even like an OBR unit or a Mortec guard, 130 points. Like it's such a weird cost.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening is like because your sort of cheapest battle line option is 130 points, buying chaff now for that Mortec crawler becomes a real hard decision to make. Like
sure,
you can't just grab a 10 unit Mortec guard as a keepback unit on this thing. Any army in the game worth its salt will just charge around 10 guys.
Sure. No, it's
or
you're
pile
right.
in twice around, or teleport to the backside of it, or whatever. And a Mortec, the best way to deal with a Mortec crawler is to not deal with it until you can deal with it. I know that's kind of a weird statement, but it's like if you just like shoot it a little bit, you're gonna help it, like actually a little bit, because like the resource investment now is diluted from dealing with the threats that are more immediate in the army. But like then you just like outflank an Ungor chariot or a Tuskor chariot and just like charge it, and then like it's within 6 inches. You don't even have to kill it. You just sit there.
Right.
Like
one of the fascinating things to me about Mortec crawlers, to those who've played Warhammer for a long time, I think this will resonate. Mortec crawlers feel like artillery felt in the
Old world.
in the old world. Yeah.
Mhm.
Where like artillery was legit terrifying.
Mhm.
Okay? It could straight up remove units. And like let's be honest here. That crawler can drop heat. Right?
Mhm.
1-2 crawlers can just be like, I'm sorry, did you need those 5 wound heroes? Because they're all dead now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels right though, doesn't it? Like it like you say, like it feels like old school artillery. Where like it's gonna try to earn its points back real fast,
But
then
it's very susceptible to being lost in turn 2, 3, and to like it just you get 1-2 turns out of it, and then it's gone, which was old artillery,
or being nullified.
Yeah.
Because you just have to put something up like in range,
Sure.
right?
That's
Because they can't chaff it.
old
like-
artillery was very much like this, where you would take a cannon and go, is this going to pay back its value in the first 2 battle rounds of the game? Right? Because I won't have it in the third. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's actually how crawlers feel. They're interesting. I mean, I actually like them because they put immense pressure on the 5 wound synergy hero, which very few things have actually successfully done.
Not since the old Thunder Tusk days have we seen it.
Right, exactly. And a lot of armies were punching way above their weight because they were able to sort of rely on like these
100 point.
overperforming
Yeah.
90-point synergy heroes that could just float around behind the cloud and never get touched in the armies that could just only punch in melee.
Right. Yeah, and even with like and shooting, even where like, oh, just shoot the thing. Look out, sir, and clever deployments, and you actually just can't shoot those 90-point idiots. Like they're just
very difficult. Yes.
Right, and you usually have to stick your neck out to try it. Right, like you oftentimes like are gambling with like your important pieces and then like opening yourself up to the countercharge. So it's like a double just as planned. So like just shoot the heroes. That's like that's the thing about just shooting in general is where is the balance between reaching out and touching someone in a meaningful way and like being able to get countered or having it be at a detriment. And I don't know that Games Workshop has completely solved the Rubik's Cube on this one, but I feel like Mortek Crawler are like really close because it is your only shooting unit. I mean, Nagash has a gaze, but like it's your only like shooting unit in that army. Most of your spells are not flamethrowers or even D3 mortal wound spells. They're all just like steroids and stuff. Like so it's like you got to go in on these catapults, and once you do, you kind of got to go like really in on the catapults if it's your plan. If it's just one catapult, that's where it's like really kind of I think that's interesting. One catapult, two catapults. I think is like it's just a really cool like kind of commitment in the army, and it does again become a commitment. I mean, this is where you start to like take a soul mason because you're like, okay, I want to reroll those ones on those catapults, right?
Right.
You know, this is where but now you've got a mason, 140-point guy sitting back with your catapults. This is where I want to take Xanthos to reroll wounds on those catapults, and I want to go Mortis Praetorians now, and like to start building around catapults. Like the lists start to like look a lot different. And I think that's what's really cool about it. I love it. And these are the kind of things I feel like we should talk about. The other thing that I find super interesting is like kind of running the numbers on the matchups. It feels like catapults give you a surer bet against your problem matchups. But then like you weaken yourself to like the jungle, as I like to refer to it as. Like so these matchups that are sure bets before become less sure once you start going in on catapults. And it's just a fun little like balancing act. This is the living meta personified.
No, and I agree. I think that's why I say, again, just to make the point, I think that's why I say the army's costed correctly, because you make real sacrifices to have it, but it gives you good tools in certain matchups. It's going to be a vulnerability in other. Somebody asked about so here's a thing. Let's talk about this thing that came out of the comments. One person said, it used to be like fast riders and stuff like that would go around and attack cavalry, and that was the answer in the old world. What's the answer now? And my answer is now there's so many answers to backboarded artillery pieces, right? Because so many armies have things that can come in from ambush or things that can teleport or things that, you know what I mean? Or just things that are hyper fast.
So here's an example. Any unit in Slaves to Darkness, any unit in Iron Jaws,
sure,
any unit in Gloomspite Gets, any unit in Change Host. Basically,
I just been teleported around a lot.
Right.
Skaven are a nightmare.
Yeah.
Beasts of Chaos, I'll beat you with Ungor Raiders and make you feel bad.
Yeah, sure,
right. Yeah, exactly. Like Beasts of Chaos are just gonna make Ungor Raiders like march on next to it and then to charge it. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I actually feel like one of the reasons they are interestingly balanced is because because most armies now honestly have tools like that to deal with it. The number of armies that don't have some kind of tool that looks like that is not common. Ironically,
and most of them that don't have it can ally in something that can.
Correct. Although I'll say that like the one all of this, like if there was a Khorne player watching, they're just having a conniption fit right now because like Khorne in this matchup is just in a bad way between their complete lack of ability to sort of, backboard like this or come in off the place, or that they rely on a lot of 5-wound hero synergy to get not much. But that doesn't point at a problem here as much as it points to the same thing we've said many times, that like Khorne isn't designed like Khorne should be designed.
Right. Well, like, and the same thing I said at the onset, just because a more powerful army exists, doesn't mean like just because there's like a less powerful army. Like talk about, you know, they're not like proving the point, right? Like that's just, like, you know, Khorne is in a worse spot. The other notion is that like I think it's okay to have the game is so robust now with most books for the most part having a lot of tools within the book. You know, I saw a lot of Iron Jaws players just switching up their weapons on their guys once the Petrifex Elite Menace was here, right? Like they're like, okay, we're just going to start taking our Ren 2 weapons again. I feel like there was some hubris in the meta not taking a lot of Ren.
Well, for a long time there wasn't any pressure to have high Ren.
Right. And Ren doesn't deal with Hearthguard Berserkers or Hagnar, right? Like because they're all the resiliences and redundant saves. So
well,
like
no, you do need Ren against Hearthguard Berserkers because
you want to shear off their initial save because then they're just relying on the after save. Like
like that's the deal.
Put them on at 1 4-up save instead of 2.
Right.
Yeah,
Fair
exactly. Probably
Fair
2. Like a 2-up re-rollable.
Right.
Like that's a very real world that Hearthguards could be facing. Like 2-up re-roll 1s, 4-up.
Yeah, but this isn't a discussion of the other 2 armies that are out of bounds in the game right now, Fire Slayers and Tzeentch. This is about OBR, who I will admit I think is less out of bounds than. Well, it's probably tied with Fire Slayers and less than.
Well, I mean, if you have the problems you have with Fire Slayers, I think just gets a multiplier next to it because, like, now imagine Mortek Guard are like teleporting and piling in twice, and you know, like
again, I don't want to devolve into the.
Yeah. Again, comparing it to another army,
Fire Slayers are fine.
Leave them alone. Leave Fire Slayers alone. I'm fine with the Fire Slayers menace, honestly. I think it's funny. Like I'm just like, man, this army has just been like, I don't know, much maligned, and I want people to get beaten by the naked baby men for a little bit.
Everybody has their time in the sun. So no, I think okay. So crawlers, general agreement here is we all like the crawlers, think they're pointed about correctly, think they're useful, and have some interesting options and builds. Right? We're all pro crawler. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just because I watched one guy roll in the 10th percentile with them one time, like, doesn't mean I think they're busted.
Yeah, sure. They can certainly have some of those days where, like, people fail a couple armor saves. It's interesting that they can be used so, even with just the default shot. Let's not worry about the special.
Yeah, no runs.
Let's just talk about the default the good old shot, right? The base shot out of the gun. It's so fascinating to me that it can be used like, yes, you might just bomb out the 5 wound heroes. Like, God forbid you want to run Cities of Sigmar sorceresses because they're all dead instantly if they're not, like, the general with a retinue and blah, blah, blah. But I'm fascinated by also just, like, well, that monster over there, I don't like it. But it doesn't have a lot of healing in this game. There are many monsters like this where they don't have a ton of healing, right? But I want to kill that thing, but it's on a 3-up save. Well, I'll just throw all the catapult shots on it and say they'll probably roll some 2s and 1s, right? And that's like 5 or 10 damage getting through. It's significant.
There's a couple of those, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm fascinated by its ability to do that. So super cool.
It's the anti-Cygor, really, when you think about it.
Oh god. The Cygor should just be like copying the crawlers' homework.
Yeah,
just being like,
do it.
Borrow some of this, man.
Yeah, steal their homework. Just let me change a couple words.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about the Immortus Guard and the Stalkers. Okay, so our sort of big elite dudes. I have seen these show up in some lists. But I don't see them often. Meph, where are you coming down on these guys now? They're often getting pushed out because of everything we've talked about so far.
Well, like it's just ponies and Mortek. It's like ponies and Mortek Guard, right? Like that's what you take. My problem with Immortus Guard and Stalkers is there's no, if they had a battle line if option, which is where Mortek, like what makes crawlers sweet is like you're starting to see a list around them, and you know, like you start to have to like make decisions and stuff like that. There really isn't a decision to make because Stalkers and Immortus Guard aren't battle line, and then you just take the other thing that's 200 points because you have to meet your battle line requirements. Like that's the problem they ultimately have. Immortus Guards are role players though, so that makes them seem like they'd have an awesome job in the army, but like you just can't afford to put a 200 points, 3 bodies thing next to Archaon.
Right. Well,
who's about to teleport anyway. like it's so they're the unit that was most intrigued me at first, where I'm like, man, I think Immortus Guard might actually be fieldable. You're going to actually play these guys to like protect Catacross. Catacross protects himself. Oh, you're going to play them to protect a Mortek Crawler? No, because someone's going to get them in the dead zone. It doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
Like, like all these things these role player jobs that I saw for the Immortus Guard, it's like, but it's a shitty job. like, and it's the wrong unit doing it. Go on. Yeah, you're holding it up.
I would say, yeah, like the problem is that like once you build your list, like they look great until you start list building. And what you realize is that you get down to that last 400 points in your list. Is it like by the time you get your heroes, by the time you get your battle line, you get down to basically exactly 400 points.
Yeah.
Like that's how this always trots out. And here are your options. Crawlers, big zombie grabber guy, the harvester.
Harvesters, yep.
Yeah, the harvester, or these guys, or these other guys.
Yeah.
Right? You can basically have 2 units out of that mix of things.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that these guys don't differentiate from the Mortek and the
Death Riders.
The Death Riders.
Yeah.
They just don't differentiate enough, where the harvester and the crawler have a function, a real function.
They're providing like hardcore utility in some fashion. Killing backline heroes, threatening big monsters, restoring units, making units just unbelievably unbreakable.
Taking a unit of Mortek Guard from a problem to the problem when it's supported by a harvester, right? Like, yeah. That's the problem with Mortis, like with the Immortus Guard. Like I think solving them becomes like a battle line if option and tapping their points down to where like you might consider them in that last slot, because then it becomes I can take these guys as my third battle line option instead of like a unit of ponies to go with my 60 Mortek Guard, and I can buy an endless spell with them. Like when you have to make a decision like that, and this is assuming that Petrifex Elite gets fixed, because I just assume it will. Like that becomes desirable. Stalkers, on the other hand, I think are good. They're not running the list right now. Everyone's just running 60 Mortek Guard and probably 2 harvesters, maybe Catacross. If you're not on that, everyone's going to be on Nagash and a bunch of ponies now that it got second at CanCon. I'm moderately upset. I wanted you guys just to let me get through the GHB with Nagash intact. Just come on. You couldn't do that for me.
Well, you were ready. He was up on the shelf for you. You were like, oh, he's done. He's just a shelf guy now.
After L1, my daughter broke him. It was a metaphor. Mm-hmm. And then like OBR was coming back out. I heard he could be played. And I began fixing him. And as I fixed him, my heart fixed. Mm-hmm. And that's why the book was good. Because I fixed him before the book came out.
Yeah.
That's
what happened. You're welcome, community.
As you bone-shaped him back together.
Yeah, I shaped Nagash back together, and like I already knew I was running Petragash or Nagash in Petrifex Elite before anything. Like I just knew it. I'm like, this is how I'm running him, because I'm running Nagash plus 100 again, baby. Except instead of carrying 100 bodies with me to a tournament, it's 50 instead. And I was living the dream, and then people had to let the stupid cat out the bag. Nagash is great again. No.
Yep, the old living machine gun is back. Yeah, he's
good. So good. Yeah, it's the best. But yeah, no, I think Stalkers are good. Again, I think Battleline If. Like I just you can make this like move them out of Petrifex Elite for the Battleline If, right? Like
sure.
whatever it takes to like give them a Battleline If to make the list building become more interesting, because the list again, it's actually like really cool. Like the dials. Like this is tinkering with a watch. That's the fine tuning you're doing to this list at this level. This isn't Beast of Chaos where you're like building a playground. You're just like, then it'll have a slide and it gets the swings, and you just like throw everything into Beast of Chaos, and then you have 400 points left over. It is opposite day. It's great. I love the tinkering. But yeah, like Stalkers and Cellular Lords. Like that's where I think they really shine, because that run and charge on those guys. The Blendermen, now that they can project power and charge over terrain, they become just a little 6 block of them. That's your last 400 points, like Tom was talking about. you're already doing the other stuff. You're already going to go grind people out. You're already going to run in charge now with your Mortek guard in Staliarch Lords. And then you've got this little, like, just threat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
Huh?
A hit squad.
Yeah, this hit squad just running around the table, dealing with problems. You know, in your hard matchups. And I like that. And you're going to get some, like, fluffy guy cred, like, oh, look at him not running Petrifex Elite. Isn't this guy just the hero we deserve? And then you're just going to blender them to death with Blendermen. So great. And, like, you wanted to run stuff straight up the table and fight. Now I'm doing that on your level. So I do like Stalkers. Like Immortus, though, they just battle line if and then you solve it. I was actually surprised that Death Riders were a battle line option. But then you're like, you have 2 battle line options. What?
No, I mean Death Rider should have been like. Here's my call.
We lost Tom.
Yeah.
He's choking to death.
Yeah. It was a good brandy or something.
Too much Fire Slayers. That's he got
the fire water.
Got too close to the forge there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's funny to me that you look at a book like KO where they were clearly very, like, say what you will about the KO book, and I've said a lot. I do love how thoughtful they were with all the battle line if options in KO. I actually enjoy that quite a bit. That there are a lot of different interesting battle line if options, that some are sunk to a hero, some are sunk to a skyport, and we can argue about how that all balances out, but it seems like they were trying to be thoughtful about it, right? And implementing a lot of different interesting ways to get at that. It is surprising to me here that didn't happen at all, right? That we didn't see the Stalkers or the Guard as... Like, it's surprising to me we didn't see, like, the Guard as battle line if in Mortis Praetorians or something, right? Where it feels like they would have this sort of natural narrative alignment or whatever. Pick your thing, right?
Right.
What were you going to say, Tom, if you're now capable of talking again?
Yeah, so sorry about that. The scotch just got me.
Yeah. The fire water.
The fire water, indeed. I think that this could have been solved if the Staliarch Lords made the Death Riders battle line. And the Mortis Praetorians made the Immortalis Guard battle line.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make this.
Ivory Host would be for Stalker. is the
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so, like, and then keep everything else kind of as is. Well, fix Petrifex, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But, like, if you keep everything else as is, you see Staliarch Lords, like, now pulling you into like Death Riders pulling you into Staliarch Lords, and then the Cavalos Lance problem that I have personally doesn't exist as bad.
Right.
You know, now it becomes a tax rather than just obviously you do it to take half the best ability or to take the best half of the abilities that Staliarch Lords get.
Right.
You know, like, now it becomes more and you don't need to make it as granular as some of the other stuff. And I think that's where the battle line if falls down, is it's too granular. It's too...
Oh, sure. If it's A and B and C, if they're in this with this general and it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's fine. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to start wrapping us up here. So here's what I want to get to. Is there anything else we want to touch on?
Ivory Host.
Let's do some closing thoughts. All right.
Let's
talk about Ivory Host.
For as great as Petrifex Elite is, Ivory Host is that bad. and it is a stinker. Like, when you look at the book, you're like, there are like, oh man, look at all these intelligent, great, look at all these intelligent, really great bone claves. And I'm like, oh man, I see why I would run Staliarch Lords. I see why I'd run Null Myriad if the meta shifts. I'd see why I'd run all of these, yada, yada, yada. Ivory Host, there is nowhere I would run that enclave. It might as well be a blank page in my book. It's the worst. And it gives you a penalty to be in your enclave, which is just a thing that shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I know all about that with using my Aether Bulb.
Like, you're already penalized. You shouldn't be penalized for an allegiance ability. You're already being constricted. You shouldn't be further penalized. I see that, like, it bothers me. Aether Gold doesn't need to give you a bravery. Just it's a thing. It's a allegiance ability. You paid your ticket. Like, take the ride. Like, it's fine. They don't need to. And then they get a penalty to something 2 other factions get a bonus to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
well, it's also just unforgivable because you would say, like, well, okay, maybe that's useful if their command trait was bonkers and they had an amazing artifact and, like, you know, the command ability actually then did something good. But the command ability just backs out the penalty that you just introduced. The command trait's terrible and the artifact's terrible. Like, what? It's just...
Well, and it gives you a bonus you can get in 3 different ways in the rest of the army.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, ooh, +1 to hit. Man, I have like I have +1
And you're
to hit.
hitting
like,
on 3s almost universally anyways.
Yeah, I'm tripping over +1s to hit in this army. Why are you giving me +1 to hit? I don't know. Give them reroll charges. Like they're supposed to be the killy, blendery, lose their mind and murder you thing. Give them +1 attack. Like, let it stack with the other +1 attacks across the army. Like, do something. Like, and why a penalty? So for as garbage as Petrifex Elite is, or as great as Petrifex Elite is, Ivory Host is just garbage. So if you're going to fix Petrifex Elite and bring that back inbounds, I think Ivory Host is out of bounds the other direction, and you need to bring that back inbounds too.
I fully support this. My ultimate love and desire and perfect world would be if when I cracked a book and I look at and honestly, this is one of the places where, like, credit where credit's due.
Ever been.
This is one of the places where I look at KO and actually feel like they were more successful than most, where I look at most of the Skyports and feel like they all, like, there's interesting things going on in most of the Skyports. Now, they do that by most of them being fairly uninteresting and not adding much to it. Like, they're all minimal, but they're all equally minimal.
Let me just say, the longer I sit with it, the better that Zilfin clearly is than everything else.
I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. But at any rate, not the current discussion. Whatever. There wasn't like there was no Petrifex that came out immediately, and there wasn't one where somebody went, this is completely out of bounds like Ivory Host is. So I'm down with that. My perfect world is I want to open a book, see 5 sub-allegiances, and go, man, I don't know which one of these 5 I want to run. Right.
I'd go a step further. I'd want to open a book and go, oh man, these guys are cool. I have an idea for a list for that.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It fits my narrative. Or like, I want to run the Wolverine host. It's Ivory Host, like the Wolverine host. They're berserkers. Like, I would love to do that. But like, I look as a person whose fluff can only carry him so far. I get to that, and I'm like, I am playing this at a detriment to myself.
Right.
And like, so I'm having a feels bad of playing it.
Yeah.
The other way, we always talk about the feels bad of like being too powerful, right? Like, it's easy when something's too powerful to just go like, I won't take that thing. Right? It's really hard when something is straight up trash to like make it great. Like, and that's considering the two, I would rather have the former than the latter. I would rather be able to self-comp and say, you know, I just won't run that because I am a gentleman. Like, I joke and I talk a big game because I like to meme on people. But like at the end of the day, like I would rather have to round down than try to round up and be incapable of it.
Sure. No, I get it. That's fair. Tom, any final thoughts on OBR here as we revisit them?
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I wish, like,
Yes.
I wish things were different.
Well, hopefully in a few months they will be.
They will be.
I just like I don't see that happening. Like, maybe, but like just the FAQ, like the amount of, I don't know. Maybe
sometimes these things take time, and often, like I said, the fix could be something that they're looking at and they don't want to make on a like, that would be a fast knee jerk for them to have reacted. Now, do we all sit here and think yes they should have done it? But we also have the benefit of another couple months of hindsight over when they were needing to make those calls.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep. And they're
go ahead, Meph.
like, I mean, my great fear is that they overcorrective steer on this.
100%. I don't want to see things nerfed into the ground. We don't want a repeat of the Zinch, the KO thing. That's worse than anything else, right? So I think we're all good with that.
Oh, but some people think that they should for the crimes they've committed against the meta.
I'm
But
not
they should just
punitive
be-
in that way.
They have committed crimes, but
Yeah. Well, you guys shouldn't have evaded your taxes. If you'd have drank your milk and paid your taxes, given the bone tithe to Nagash, like, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
All right. So, yeah, I think that's right. I think we'll wait to see what happens in the in the couple months. I'm sure there's much more discussion that's going to happen around OBR, and we'll see how it all goes. Here's what I'll say. They certainly made a successful new army. I mean, I think this is probably something to leave it on. Whatever the case with Petrifex.
yeah, I would agree with that.
This army, both for casuals and clearly for tournament players, it has grabbed people's imaginations in a big way. To have an army that came out 3 months ago, jumped to 9% of the meta, is an amazing accomplishment.
Well,
right?
this is the army Nighthaunt kind of should have been. You know, like, Nighthaunt was supposed to be Death's, like, real Age of Sigmar-y thing. Right? I mean, Flesh Eater Courts have amazing fluff, but they never... It's very niche. You know, like, it's cool fluff, but, like, that's niche. Like, when you're a Death player, you're not just like, I want ghoul. Like, it's usually, like, skeletons, necromancers, vampires. Like, there are the you know, like, the tenets of, like, what Death is for people who traditionally love fantasy. When you see OBR, you go, that's a freaking skeleton in Age of Sigmar. They got the Super Shredder serum from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. They slammed it back with a glass of milk. They, like, hulked up, and now they're fighting. Like,
or they're just the turtles from the newer movies where they were really strong and tough.
They're so swole. Like, yeah, like that's awesome that they did that. And then it catches your imagination. You go like, I can see more of this. Yeah. I can see them releasing a winged chariot down the line, or like me finally getting my bone dragon. Like, I can see, like, my bone dragon horror where it's like an amalgam of bones roughly in the shape of a dragon. Like, I can see us getting all that stuff, like, down the line, where, like, we get they open the chambers for Stormcast Eternals. We can get a wave 2 of this, just like cities can get, like, a wave 2 and get some new cities in there.
Well,
like,
they mentioned, like, bone, other pieces of bone artillery in the Wrath of the Everchosen that Catacross uses to defend his fortress. Like, he has more war machines than just crawlers in the story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, there's clearly more stuff going on there. So, yeah, I agree. So there we go, everybody. OBR revisited. I think it's a good, interesting discussion. Ultimately, I want to know where you think. We want to know what you all think. Oh, just as Dan from AOS Shorts joined us, of course. We're calling it tonight. But hi, Dan. But for all of you who are still watching, please hit that like button. Make sure you give that a smash, as they say on the internets, because it does help other people find the show, and obviously we really appreciate that. So make sure you hit the like. It takes like 2 seconds. There you go. Look, you can move your mouse over just that fast. Click it. There you go. So thanks, everybody. Meph, thank you very much for coming back on the show, brother. It was a good time.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Always a party. I am sure I'm going to see you again pretty soon. Sad you're not going to be at Holy Wars, but will you be at Adepticon?
I'm hitting the ones confirmed for the calendar are Archaon and Midwest Meltdown and Bruce City Brawl.
Is it Archaon?
Excellent.
Yeah. Do they know? Does the world know yet, Tom?
I don't know. I think I told everybody.
Okay.
So for teams, I'll make the announcement now since you're on the show. So for teams this year, for my Archaon team, for our Archaon team, it's myself.
V-Plan.
Meph. Heywo Twitch.
And
he's got to tease it.
And do you want to do the reveal?
just say it. You're building it up way too much.
Yeah.
And Ben Saba.
Yes.
And so Meth, Ben, and Heywo Twitch, we're gonna be rolling some dice at Acon, and it's gonna be a blast.
I can't wait to walk by the table in between teaching classes or whatever I'm doing and watch you guys play. Should be a great time. Looking forward to that. Like I said, the countdown's on, folks. 5 weeks. Hope to see everybody there. Again, don't forget those new classes are up. So if you're interested, if you're going to be in the UK, I would love to see you at the class. Darksphere is an awesome place. It's a really, really great store. So that's going to be super fun. And again, we're going to do big monsters and we're going to do characters. It's going to be a wonderful time. So thank you all for watching. Very much appreciated it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody.
Peace, everyone.
Ah! As it tries to start.